Share Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, one and all. Today is March 29th, 2022, and this is episode 93 of Pop Culture Warrior. It's the show where I stay up to date on all the ins and outs of what's happening in pop culture so you don't have to. I'm CQ. I'm your Pop Culture Warrior, and with me, as always, is a guy who would slap someone to defend my honor. The man in the bubble, the voice of the unpop cultured Mr. Radar. What's up, everybody?
What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy?
I tell you what, though, I'm only gonna slap people as long as you're faithful. That's the way that works.
I couldn't help it. I had
All
to
I'm
take
gonna
my
say
shot.
about that.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? We are cooking. We're live. It's happening. It's going down. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. I gotta ask. What did you think about all that? When all that shit went down, what did you think about all that?
Ooh, that
As the pop culture guy, because I'm gonna say this. I didn't even know there was a thing going on. And then all of a sudden, I just see, like, on our group chat, holy shit, Will Smith just smacked the fuck out of Chris Rock. I said, what? Why? Why would he do that? And then I saw the things, and I thought it was kind of funny. I think the whole interaction was funny.
I mean,
But do you think they do that shit just to, like, get people to give a fuck? Is it like, turn it into like a what were those, like, shows like Maury Povich and shit?
yeah. I
Did
mean,
they just do that shit to, like, try to get people to hang out or
spike
what?
the ratings and shit. Yeah. The honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's a gag. It's a skit. It's a sketch. It's a ham. It's a flim flam. It's you know what I mean? Like, it was, I didn't believe that this was something that really happened, and we've seen, so, like, I remember, I don't know, a couple of years ago at the Grammys, when, what was it, like, Borat was coming in through the rafters on, like, a skyline, and then he, like, face plants his ass right onto Eminem's lap or something like that, and, like, Eminem he got crazy mad, and, like, he stormed out and all this. Turned out that he was in on the joke, like, that was it was
Yeah.
supposed to happen, or the classic Janet Jackson ripping the boob out in the Super Bowl. I mean,
Oh, this is my thought.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop you.
I'm gonna stop you right
I
there.
think-
I'm gonna stop you right
I-
there. I'm gonna let you finish.
I think the boob was accidental.
No,
I think that one was accidental, dude.
it
And
was
because
they said
because
it
here-
wasn't. They came out and said
Okay.
it wasn't.
all right, well, hear me out.
Okay.
After that, I think it's all been staged. I think it has all of it, all that shit.
Everything, like the games, like what is all of what? All of
No,
everything?
I mean, like, all these fucking the bitch slap. Okay, first off, okay, if I'm really that mad, if you offend me so bad
Mhm.
that I was to get up in the middle of all of our friends, right,
Mhm.
and all the people who we have any
Our
sort of
colleagues.
professional relationship with,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna bitch slap you. I'm gonna knock you out. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna slap you like a little bitch and then go sit down and be like, and then I'm gonna say some shit. Nah, nope, that
Yeah.
ain't gonna happen.
It's weird. Like, here's the thing.
Shit, though.
It's weird. It's weird. So I've seen both sides of the argument where it's like it's stage, it's not stage. Because, like, there's certain, like, freeze frame where it looks like he's leaning into it and kind of bracing, like he knows it's coming. And, Will Smith kind of does this very exaggerated like stage combat slap versus, like you said, like throwing a haymaker or something. A guy who trained to be Muhammad Ali in a movie should know how to throw a punch.
Yo,
And then even, like, where he kind, like, there's a picture of him turning and he's kind of smirking, but as soon as he's full faced, like, he's back to being, like, mean or whatever, mean mug. But but there's also the other thing of where, like, if it was a bit, there was no need for the added extra stuff that was after it, because like you could see Rock was like stunned, like he was like, I just got slapped,
Yeah.
and then he's trying
Will
to,
Smith slapped the shit out of me.
yeah,
Or
and
whatever.
he's
Yeah,
trying
slapped
to
the
he,
fuck out of me.
he's trying to make it a, he's trying to laugh it off, and he's like, dude, it was just a GI Jane joke, and that's when Will Smith got even more pissed and starts yelling at him.
I would have saw if it would have went the other way, and he'd be like, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth," like as a heckle. I could
Mhm.
totally see that being not staged. You know what I mean? Because that people, as a comedian,
Mhm.
right? I'm sure you've upset people with your jokes. I guess I've
Yeah.
never heard one of your skits, but people take it the wrong way. People say things the wrong way. As a very amateur comedian, I have said things that have rubbed people the wrong way,
Yeah,
and they say words first.
yeah.
They don't just come up and slap the shit out you.
Yeah, and Joe in the pop culture chat has a good point too. There's been pictures released that during the commercial break, Will got up and walked away, and there were other actors like calming him down. Like he was crying and upset, and like I think it was Denzel Washington, I think Bradley Cooper, and someone else came up to him, and they were like trying to calm him down. I mean, here's the thing. I do believe it was real. I do believe it was real. I don't
Sure.
believe it was staged. And I'm a huge Will Smith fan. Huge Will Smith fan. Grew up with the guy. I think it was that was bad. That was bad. Even if it was a publicity stunt, it looks bad on you.
Mhm.
If you don't come out right after and like, we were all another joke, we were fucking around, we thought we'd liven it up. Even if it is a publicity stunt, this looks bad for you. He's going to lose money on this. He could have had charges. The LAPD got involved. He
They did.
could have had charges pressed against him. Obviously, Chris Rock said he wouldn't, but he could have. This is going to he's going to lose endorsements over this. Even if it's staged, even if it is. There are companies out there that are not going to back him because of this. Like he's one of those guys that has like the Hollywood persona of being a nice guy, right? Like Tom Hanks, like these guys that are like the epitome of nice guys in Hollywood. That's tarnished. You can't slap the shit out of a colleague on national live TV for making a joke as a comedian and claim the I'm a nice guy. You can't. You can no longer do. Now,
You know why you can do that? Do you know why Will Smith could do that? You or I can't do that. You know why
Okay.
Will Smith can do that?
why?
His net worth is over $350 million. $350 million.
Yeah.
He can slap the shit out of whoever he wants and completely disappear off the fucking radar. This could be the last thing we ever hear about Will Smith. He can go live on his private ass island and fucking we'll never see his ass again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't give a fuck.
He
He
could.
dude. He could do all kinds of publicity stunts. They might have said, you know what? Hey, we'll give you fucking $5 million to slap Chris Rock in the mouth on this thing. All right, tight. Bye, see ya. Yeah, I'll slap the shit out of Chris Rock for $5 million, and I'm broke as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why not, dude? Even if he leaves right now, boom, he's gone. Right?
Yeah.
He's still gonna get all his royalties and his fucking payments for his show for Fresh Prince and everything else he's got fucking going and all these other things. Right? He's still gonna get paid. And he's already got paid $350 million. Even if he has to give half of that to Jada when they divorce, finally, when he gets sick of her sleeping around on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fuck it.
Yeah. Kaz, that's funny. That's funny.
That is exactly what happened.
This is
Well, I
his
mean, like-
second little fight. Is his mom scared? Because he's moving with
There's
his
my
old tape
privilege.
rental. Yeah.
Is that Neil
mean-
saying that was my privilege? Because okay, I'm broke. Motherfucker, I got $350 million.
Yeah. Well, no, I think he's referring to Will Smith. That's his privilege to be so rich that he could just slap someone and then win an Oscar, right?
How
And
awesome would that
accept
be?
it.
How awesome would that be to be so rich you could just slap whoever the fuck you wanted to slap?
Yeah.
It's like, bam, done. Bye, I'll see you. Bitch slap you.
Yeah.
What's that one? It was like a British comedy. And the dude's in the backyard at a barbecue and just bitch slaps everybody, and the cops come and he bitch slaps all them, and like he just walks through the fence.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want $350 million to do that.
No, I think Jim's right. Jim's saying, if he had stayed in his seat and just been like heckled in a way that was like, hey man, too far.
Yep.
then
Absolutely.
then that's him defending his wife while also staying within the boundaries of that performer audience member relationship,
Mhm.
right? Because I think like, hey, what gives him the watch it, like, you give him the like, dude, cut it, nope. And then he would have moved. I think Chris Rock would have caught got the idea, would have moved on, and then yeah, but active. He must. I don't know if he been drinking or on something, or I don't know. Maybe he got into it with his wife, and he's like, all
Ooh.
right, this is my moment to. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That was just, it was such a bad look. It's such a bad look.
How cool would that be? Is if he was, and now he has to like go to rehab. Maybe that was his rock bottom, dude. We don't even know.
I mean, you never know. Like he just released a book a couple months back, and in the book he talks about that his biggest kind of regret in his life is he's always felt like a coward. That when he was younger, like his dad was beating up on his mom and he didn't do nothing, and he would see people getting picked on and wouldn't do nothing, and get picked on on himself and didn't do nothing, and that's why he talks like later in life I became over cocky because he was making up for it. So I don't know if this is a moment of like, look, there's
Yeah.
no excuse. There's no excuse. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, did Chris Rock cross a line making fun of a woman's basically disability because she has a medical condition? Did he cross a line? Yeah, maybe. I mean, can you expect a comedian who's performing to know? I doubt that was a planned joke. I'm sure he saw her and was like, "Oh shit, bald head," and said it. Like, I don't.
Possibly.
I doubt like that was a bit that he had like spent time to write up. Oh, I'm gonna look up and tell her, whatever. Um,
I'm gonna say this though too, like, eh, and I think there are certain lines that people cannot cross or should not cross,
mhm.
right? Like whether it be racism or whatever. Chris Rock has always been known as kind of a raunchy comedian,
Sure, he
right?
said some stuff. Yeah,
He's pushed a lot of boundaries and pushed a lot of buttons on people. That's just the way Chris Rock has always been
sure.
since Chris Rock was not famous, right?
Mhm.
So comedians, I think, have to be afforded a little bit of
Yeah, you get to get away with some stuff.
you get away with some stuff, right?
Daniel
And
Tosh
and
has
it- and it-
made.
and
Sorry,
and
go
if
ahead.
he would and if Will Smith would have said, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth," instead of slapping him.
Yeah,
But here's the deal, though, too. Like, well,
that there's no excuse for
there's been
physically
there's
assaulting
been a
someone.
lot of other things in that woman's mouth, and she's been in a lot of other dudes' mouths in a lot more inappropriate ways. So you can't be like,
Uh, God.
"I'm just saying,
Well,
dude."
there goes Will Smith or Jada Pinkett Smith ever coming on this show.
Oh yeah, unless they want to come on and discuss this with me, they can go. I'll go toe to toe with them. I go and get slapped. Yeah, like fucking. He said,
Oh
"Yeah, he'll go
man.
one better. I'll let him slap me for $5 million, hundred
Yeah.
percent for
Anyway.
$5 million." Did you see his one where Will Smith's deal? Where and I'm praising him now, even though he's a fucking
Mhm.
cuckold. But did you see the one where he went on the fucking tour with the Disney Channel yet? Or not Disney Channel, Nat Geo or whatever. It's on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah. Like yeah.
Yeah, that was actually pretty nice. I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the few things all my kids have watched they enjoyed.
Yeah.
But for $5 million, you could have used me as bait for them fucking lions or some shit. I wouldn't even give a fuck.
Yeah. I
I wouldn't
think
even give a fuck.
Joe makes a great point. Joe says the thing is this sets a bad precedent for assaulting comedians because you don't like what they say. It's dangerous for working comedians. That scares me. It's true.
It is. Yeah.
Already to be a comedian in today's day and age is harder because of that quick jump knee jerk reaction of cancel culture of like, oh, they said this thing, when realizing like that's what comedians are supposed to do. They're supposed to push the boundaries. Daniel Tosh has done 9/11 jokes. He's done Boston Marathon bombing jokes. Like there are good ways of telling them. There are jokes that are overstepping the line for the purpose of overstepping the line, but there are also jokes that like we push the boundaries, right? We make the uncomfortable comfortable. Um, yeah, it's that's oof, I don't. There's no excuse for ever putting your hands on someone. I mean, if you're defending yourself, of course, but that is assault any way you slice it. Defending his wife's honor or not, that is assault. That is definition,
Oh
black and
yeah,
white textbook assault.
absolutely it was.
And it sets a
Absolutely it was.
it sets a very dangerous precedent. Um, I just yeah, they're gonna have to do like in concerts now. They're gonna have to put the fence between the audience and the people hosting the show.
Yeah, I like an old fucking shitty bar where they got to perform behind a like fucking
Yeah.
chicken wire and shit.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
you
exactly.
can see that at like Madison Square Garden next time Chris Rock's up there.
Anyway,
But in all fairness, like I said, I think comedians are given a little bit more leeway and should be because
Yeah.
that's their job.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you have when someone's on stage telling jokes, you have
They're
to assert.
Fucking jokes.
Yeah, you can't take that stuff serious.
No.
But it is on the job of the comedian to know where the line is. I don't
Well-
think Chris Rock stepped over the line. I don't think he did
No,
because I don't think he
did.
intentionally attacked her disability, her condition, right? He was making a joke of, "Hey, you look like what's her name, Demi Moore did in G.I. Jane." Like that's the essence of the joke. If if he said some fucked up shit like oh, you can't grow hair on your head, but I bet you could on like your pussy, like something like that, where like you're making fun of the condition.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yep.
That's different.
But even if it would have said something along the lines of, okay, oh, do the drapes match the curtains or some shit like that? It's Chris Rock, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't. That's like asking a pit bull not to bite a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, shit, that's just the way he is.
Which we do. Which is we kind of do.
I'm just saying.
Anyhow, because you're
fucking
this close to getting the radar rant button. You're this close.
I've got the shirt on. Look, I got the shirt on. Thing. Woo. Got the fucking radar rants going. And this motherfucker, yeah, don't let. Why? Why are we trying to censor Chris Rock? Why?
I'm not
Why
trying
that
to censor
now?
it. I'm not trying.
Oh, fucking everybody in there. It's bullshit.
Anyway, okay, so hi everybody, welcome to the show, which we haven't even started yet. Quick shout out to everybody out there. Hey, Neil, Kaz, Heath, Scott.
Is he just not watching Hawkeye? Heath, you just started watching Hawkeye? That's from like Christmas, man. That's like 5 months ago.
Corporal Carter, us G.I. Janes have enough. I've had enough. Joe, Jim, what's up, guys? Appreciate you checking us out. Holly, I see you out there. Thank you, Al. I see you out there. Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thanks you guys for checking us out and having some fun with us tonight. I promise we're done with the I'm enough.
Yeah,
with
we're over that.
Stuff.
We actually dedicated about 19 too many minutes to that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It is what it is.
Hey, it's pop culture. You're the pop culture warrior.
I will say that we're supposed to have a guest tonight. And I'm gonna show you guys how the sausage is made now. We're gonna take a peek behind the curtain. Supposed to have a guest tonight. Booked him. Got with his PR. Got with his people. Locked him in. He chose the date. And that was it was a week or two ago. 3 weeks ago. And I checked in. I said, he sent an email. Hey, we're good to go. We're still nothing. Completely ghosted. Reached out to his PR people. Completely ghosted. So 50-50 if we have a guest tonight. I mean, we'll find out at 9:00. We'll see. I'm leaning towards not. But if that be the case, we're going to dust off a classic. Something we haven't done around here in quite a while. And I've missed it. We're going to do, I think at this point, it's like part 4 or part 5 of like, who eats this shit? Where we take a look at things that are actually sold in stores. And you guys can tell me if it's something you would buy or something you would try. We've done a couple of these, and I always love them because it's fascinating to see which one of you weirdos likes the weird things that they're selling, and I can go, okay, so you're the person that they're trying to sell to. So, uh, so we got that done. If you've been following on the pop culture social media, you'll know that the new CQ headquarters, the Pop Culture Warrior headquarters, is almost done. It's almost done. Odds are I'll have to do one more show here, but after next week, we will be in our new studios, our new streaming setup, and it is glorious. Oh my God, I can't wait. Oh, I'm so excited.
It's very the pictures are very you need to do something with that. It's very white. It's very bright.
They just did painting today. I haven't uploaded the newest pictures. They painted today.
Okay.
Obviously, yeah, with it was white because to get the base coat, but yeah, no, they just painted today. So I'll release those pictures after this. I'll release those pictures, but it's looking so good. It's looking so good. I'm so excited. What else? What else? Oh, so this is episode 93. We're creeping up on episode 100. We're coming damn close to episode 100.
Yeah, we're like 7.
Yeah.
It's almost 2 months.
Yep. A little less than 2 months. I want to do something ridiculous for episode 100. I don't know what it is yet. But I want to do something legendary. I'm still trying to figure out what it is. I do have one idea. We haven't done a giveaway in a while, and I have an item that I think people will lose their shit for.
Is it a Radar Rants shirt?
No.
Oh.
No. Although the Sorry About It t-shirt is flying off the shelves right now.
That's what I heard.
If you guys want to get one of these, little sorry about it t-shirt, they are flying off the shelves. Get yourself a Sorry About It t-shirt. Mm-hmm. Or like the Radar Rants that we got right there, my man, and or if obviously the classic Pop Culture Warrior. We got.
I tried to buy a CQ hat. They didn't have those on her.
Those are special edition, brother.
Yeah, must be
special edition. I can't have people going around thinking they're gonna be CQ. I already had one person telling me that they're trying to pretend to be me, so we don't need none of that. Yeah, and like Mike said, hey, tonight, midnight tonight or 3 a.m. because of Pacific time. Tonight is when the Moon Knight launches, so I'll be checking it out first thing in the morning. You're gonna be getting one of them early CQ texts like, "Did you see it? It's amazing."
There's been a couple of little reviews already that haven't given it the highest marks. I'm kind of worried about
it. Calm your tits. Calm your tits. They've seen one episode and they said it leaves a lot to be desired, but I think that's the point. I think it's going to build. Remember episode 1 of WandaVision? Everybody was like, what is this?
Yes, that's true.
That's the point. I think we're going to build to that bigger climax. Just give it half the season, which is 3 episodes. Give it half the season, 3 episodes, and I guarantee you they light the tires and kick the fires, you know. What they say. Scott, is it a full-size Master Chief replica? No, but I'm watching a guy on TikTok 3D print a like full-size Master Chief, like an 8-foot tall, you know, whatever he'd be in real life. It was so weird to see him like, because you 3D print like pieces like this at a time, and he's building this giant Master Chief statue, which is cool. But no, it is not. I will say, I'll give a hint. It is MCU related. It is autographed by one of the big 3. That's all I will say about that.
All right.
It is in my private. It's nothing you could see here. It's in my private collection, protected. Yeah. So that I think I'm gonna give it away for the 100th episode. I think I'm gonna give it away. It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. So who's the big 3? Man, Google it. Who's the big 3? So, real
Ford,
quick,
Chevy, and Dodge.
baseball, football, basketball, the big three. No. So again, if you've been following my adventures, this week has been a little crazy. I flew to LA,
Yes.
which I got to
How
talk about
was
that for
that?
a minute. I got to talk about it.
Huh.
It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. I posted. I went. I went live. So if you go to the Pop Culture Warrior page, you can find my live video. I went live from the backyard of Carter Bay's house. Carter Bay's the guy who created How I Met Your Mother. His home is. I mean, obviously, he lives in the Hollywood Hills. It's like a $10 million house. It is ridiculous. I don't think I could afford the electricity bill of a day in that place. Like it is massive. I took a little tour inside but outside was like the pool, like the garden, the open area. There's like 2 rope swings. You go downhill, it's a tennis court. There's like a basketball court, a pitching mound, and then like I think his guest house, which is at the bottom of the hill, is like bigger than my house. So it's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Full wait staff, full kitchen staff. Obviously he was having a big event, so some of this might have been kind of, like
Yeah, like he probably have a giant full kitchen staff for him and his
right,
family.
right,
Kind of.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. He's
Right. They doesn't cater lunch at his house. Huh?
exactly. They probably have a couple staff because there were people running around that you could tell work there.
Yes.
Then there was there were valets. Obviously, they don't work there. There was definitely a lot of servers and because they were doing hors d'oeuvres. There was 2 bars, 2 different bars, open bars. There was a live jazz band. So I'm obviously those people don't live there and work there. But you could tell that like he has
he doesn't have a jazz band on call.
yeah,
Like,
it just plays as he wakes up. They're just sitting there waiting for him as he wakes up. But no, like he had 4 beautiful kids, and I think there was like 2 nannies running around with them, and him and his wife, running around talking to people. But it was crazy, man. Hollywood, like elite. There were like I met some writers from Friends, some of the writers from Friends, How I Met Your Mother, a couple actors and actresses. Matt Eisman, who we've had on the show, was there. American Ninja Warrior. I was messing with him the whole night. Obviously Carter Bays was there. A lot of actors, actresses. One I posted about, that actually kind of blew up on social media. I posted a picture. I was like, oh look, I bumped into Victoria from the show. Victoria, Ashley Williams, and I was actually surprised, man. Like I posted and like got like 1,000 reactions and 100 comments, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, we love it." And here's the funny thing about talking with her. I didn't go up to her; she came up to me. I don't mean that to brag. Sorry if it comes off as a humble brag. I was there to perform comedy. They were asking me to do a little comedy, so I did comedy. Came off stage. I think I did really, really well. A lot of people came up to me and were like, "Oh my god, that was so funny!" Blah 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 blah. And at one point, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and I instantly realize who it is because I love the show. She's one of my favorites on the show. Obviously, she's aged a bit since the show's been on air, but instantly recognizable. And so I was just like, "Oh, hi." She's like, "Oh, CQ, I just wanted to tell you, you were so funny. That was great." Blah blah blah. I said, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you." And of course, in my head, the minute that my eyes locked on and I recognized who it was, I was like, I got to get her on my show. I got to get her on my show. But I'm like, but my brain's telling me, don't just come out you can't try to score a home run right out the gate. You gotta, so I was just like, oh, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Oh, I'm glad you enjoy the show. A little chit chat. So we talked for like 5-10 minutes, and she's nodding, and her husband's with her, and he's a producer. He does a bunch of producing stuff. And so finally I was like, hey, listen, might be weird, but I do this podcast, Pop Culture Warrior. But I had Carter Bays on, and Matt Eisman, who's here. I had him on, and I would love to have you on. And right away, she was kind of like taken aback, but not in a way of like insulted, but kind of just like, what? Really? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, no, I'd love to have you on. And she goes, no, I don't think people would care. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what do you mean? You know, she's like, yeah, you know, it was a small part and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, man, your character's legendary on the show. So many people still think that you should have been the mom and this and this and that. And, you know, and they, you know, they did her dirty in the last season because they had to make a reason for her to not be awesome, but whatever. So I was like, no, I really think that, you know, people would get a kick out of it. And she's like, ah. And luckily her husband kind of jumped in and he's like, yeah, you should do it. You should do it. And of course they asked me like, hey, do you have a card? And I'm like,
Of course not.
I have a,
Why would I have a
why
card?
would I have a
Why would it-
card?
the most basic. I have a card, and I work for a veterans Firewise community thing.
Yeah. So
I have a card.
long story short, I need to get cards made for pop culture wear. But anyway, I was like, I have a t-shirt, I have a hat.
Yeah.
But yeah,
My
no,
hat
but we
is
exchanged
that.
info. They actually the guy was so nice. The guy was so nice. He pulls out his phone, he's like, look, give me your email. And, popped it in and he shot me an email right there. So like I got it. And he's like, all right, there's our contact. Let's talk. We'll schedule something. So I will have Victoria here on the show some point. I know we're like booked out till May, but at some point.
Right, and it has to work with her schedule and
Of course,
everything, and
of
yeah,
course.
that's a little back of the house thing that people don't get is we have our guests have schedules too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
People have
oddly
lives.
enough,
They got lives.
I mean, you know, they are coming on our show, so they're not. No, I'm just kidding. But genuinely, like you know, a lot of people we have on, they're shooting things, they're doing whatever, and so you know, just because and maybe Tuesday nights don't work for them.
Yeah.
So
Scott, that's pretty funny though. Scott, pulling the classic out the hat. Did you ask them what they look for in a guy? Because apparently that's a thing I do now to guests is like, so what are you looking for in a guy? Like as if
yeah, it was really weird when you did that to Carter Bates.
what are you looking for in a guy? No, but yeah, so dude, it was a great event. It's ridiculous.
How'd your set go? Did your set go?
It went well. Okay, so true story is we had 4 comedians. First one comes out, tells a couple jokes. If I'm being honest, kind of felt just dead. I don't think the material was right for the audience. B, nobody had been drinking that much yet. and
it's helpful.
Yeah, the audience is typically a little cold at first. So then the second comedian goes out, saw kind of what was going on, so kind of gave it a little bit more, couple laughs. Third comedian goes out, does their thing, couple more laughs. So like the audience is starting to warm up a little bit. Finally, I'm going in, I'm closing. So I go out and I know my material is fine. It's good material, but I can tell these people were kind of bored, right? By the talking head kind of sitting here and you know, because everybody did the thing. They, you know, stand there and tell their jokes, whatever. So in my head, I went, okay, I'm going to put it all out there. I'm going to act ridiculous. I'm going to overact, right? So I'm like, it's the same material, but now I'm going to, like, it's a stage, right? It's a theater. So I'm like, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm shooting this guy. And I'm like swinging my arms. And like at one point I threw myself on the ground. I'm jumping around. At one point I'm yelling at the audience from like 2 feet away. And I turned the performance of it up to 11 and it worked. It worked. I got really good laughs. I got people, you know, cracking up. And at one point I said something and somebody yelled out, we're like, yeah, that's right. I also tried, I actually tried to incorporate some like Hollywood silliness into it. So like when I'm talking about how I got injured and all that, like halfway through it, I stop and I go, by the way, you know, if anyone here wants to option the CQ story, like I'm affordable, like we can negotiate. So that way, and that they got a kick out of that. They got a kick because I'm involving them in the set now. You know, I referred to getting shot as like being in a Tarantino movie and helicopters, you know, blowing shit up like it's a Michael Bay movie. So like I was making references that is their industry. And,
right, that they would understand and they would get and they would,
So
that's awesome.
I think that put them at ease and it kind of made them feel safe to laugh. You know, I threw out my classic, like, you know, if you don't laugh, the terrorists win, you know, so like, you know, making them
that's a little violent.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but it went well. It went very well. The like I said, it was just weird seeing how the other half lives, or not even the other half, the 1% really.
Yeah.
It was weird seeing that. Um, as a big fan of the show, walking around his house, I don't want to say it's like a shrine to the show, but there's definitely a lot of memorabilia around. I posted some pictures of it. Like you walk into his kitchen, the Far Hampton sign from the show is hanging there. You go into the back into his like little patio room, the booth from McLaren's is there. The booth where the gang sat at. I got to sit down and take a picture at the booth. There's so much. There's so much to all right. There's so much to see, and he had like pictures of like when he won the Emmys and all the different things, and so it was just so cool to see that as a fan of the show and to know that it's he obviously loves it too and everything, but yeah, so that was great. And then I stole this from his house.
Well,
It was
now you're never gonna get. That's gonna be. Yeah, that's what they're gonna option.
It's like, dude, monogrammed. Like this is toilet, like not toilet tissue, but what's the thing like you dry your hands on, like
a napkin.
well, no, but it was in the bathroom. You don't put napkins in the bathroom. It's like a hand towel, but like disposable.
I don't know.
What do you call that? I don't know.
It's
Anyway.
called toilet paper. You're supposed to wipe your ass with it and flush down the toilet.
It was at the sink, dude. It was a pile of monogrammed, like, hand drying paper towels. Anyway, whatever. So I stole that because I'm like, fuck this. I'm getting a memento. I don't care.
All right then.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
So there's that. Now I did go to another event. I flew straight from LA to Chicago, drove up to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and I went.
You've been there all weekend. You said it right.
Wisconsin. I know some people from Wisconsin. And I went to GaryCon, which if you're not a tabletop D&D player, this means nothing to you. But if you are the tabletop kind of D&D player, this is like the holy grail of places. GaryCon, named after Gary Gygax, who is one of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons. So I got some cool goodies, as I always do. And so the next time I do giveaways, I got some cool stuff to give away. Very excited for it.
That actually sounds fun, dude.
Yeah.
That's an exciting weekend.
Yeah. Well, here's the great thing. I will say, so why I was there was I was representing a nonprofit for veterans that help wounded veterans. And so a couple years ago, they went to GaryCon, and GaryCon raised $6,000 through charitable auctions and donations and gave it to the organization. They asked me to come out, hey, speak about your experience, talk about being a wounded veteran, maybe tell some jokes, whatever. My goal was like, okay, they got 6,000 last time through this auction. I said, we're gonna double that. I'm gonna go for broke. We're gonna double it. And so I did my story, I did my spiel, I did some comedy, and the whole time, like, people are doing auctions. We had an auctioneer, right? And he would go, 20, and he would, all right, 180. And I'd be like, you could do 200. And the guy was like, all right, 200. And so I was doing that all night. It was 3 hours long auction. I'm so proud that at the end of the auction, we raised $30,000.
Wow.
30,000. When the last
and
time
your goal was what again? 12,000?
Yeah, it would have been 12,000. So I more
and
than
you got
doubled.
30?
Yeah, we got 30,000. So
wow, that's
very
amazing.
excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I even pulled some collectible little things that I thought they would like, and I threw it into the auction as well. I donated my own stuff to the auction because it's a great organization.
Was it a CQ hat? It better not have been a CQ hat.
No, these are one of one, baby. One of one. Well, it's like one of two. There's another one.
Yeah, the other one's in a celebrity auction.
So
at
GaryCon, someone in Wisconsin's got a CQ hat. But no, hey, it's all good.
Did you go to Fleet Farm while you were there?
Fleet Farm?
Yeah.
No, I did not go to Fleet Farm. What is that?
Oh, it's a Wisconsin. It's an Upper Midwest thing. It's like it's like they're huge.
They're huge.
They're huge.
Huge.
But they have like literally you can get like your oil changed and like a pair of Carhartt bibs and a fishing rod and like lumber and like everything. You can get everything at Fleet Farm. Everything. Groceries, fucking all of it. Think a Walmart plus a lumber yard.
Mike
Basically.
Larson in the chat. Fleet Farm is the shit.
Fleet Farm is the shit, actually. But it's really, really
outstanding.
big in like Wisconsin. Like you can't throw a rock and not hit a Fleet Farm in Wisconsin. Pretty sure about it.
All right.
So
I assumed I'd get
you have to
some
go,
type of
"Oh,
cheese.
they have the best fucking cheese balls, dude. Not like not like but like cheesy poof. The balls.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah, they're Tractor Supply on steroids. Massive steroids.
Brass Pro meets Walmart plus grocery store. Okay.
Plus lumberyard. You can also get lumber and stuff there.
Yeah. There you go.
And like trailers. You can buy trailers there.
I was assuming that as soon as I
houses.
crossed the state line into Wisconsin, somebody was going to give me like a wheel of cheese. I thought that was
You
like
didn't get one?
no.
You only get the curds. Cheese curds. Did you get cheese curds?
I didn't get cheese curds.
Oh
Although
my
I
God, what is
had
wrong with
I
you?
had a broccoli and cheddar soup while I was there that I'm pretty sure there were cheese curds in it. Because I was like,
Yeah,
this
that's
tastes like
probably-
grits. Like, why does the broccoli and cheddar soup taste like grits?
Yep. Did you go to Culver's?
Dude, I went to the goddamn convention. I was there for 2 days, and then I got on a plane and came home. I didn't
Okay,
went
well, for
nowhere
those
else.
2 days, I figured like I don't know, maybe you like ate food or
Yeah,
fucking something.
at the convention. They're like, because it's at a resort. So like my room was there, the restaurants were there, the convention hall was there. I did not leave the grounds. There was a freaking water park inside my hotel. There's a water park inside the hotel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but there's no cheese curds apparently.
Well, I don't know. They did have a all you can eat prime rib buffet.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. It's
And
like literally.
and I
everywhere.
felt so sick afterwards. I felt
Yeah.
so sick. I ate so damn much. Anyway. But yeah, long story short, it was a great event. I'm exhausted. I'm a bit sick from traveling. You can hear my voice and I'm coughing.
I'm gonna make you come here and take you to Fleet Farm and get you some cheese curds and shit. Just pretend like you're in Wisconsin.
Sure. Okay.
Serious.
Um
We have the furthest west Fleet Farm.
but yeah.
We do.
So lots of things happening. I actually just got invited to I can't talk about it yet because I'm not even 100% sure if I'm going to do it or not. But I got invited.
You just got invited to come to my house and have cheese curds and go to Fleet Farm.
No, that's
And then I'll put you back on the plane.
I
back to
definitely
where-
know I'm not doing that one. I definitely know I'm not doing that one. But no, there's this. I won't talk about it yet, but it's an event. They've asked me to speak at it, and it's crazy because I've spoken at a lot of different events. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, up to like 20 minutes. They're asking me to do an hour. They're asking me to do an hour
Wow.
and just go for broke. So I'm considering it. Doing it. It'll be in May. So we'll see.
Did anyone reach out to you about your story about monetizing that?
We always come with some conversation. While I was out there. So that's the other thing. While I was out in LA, so I got to see Carter, who's been on the show. I got to see Matt, who's been on the show.
Yes.
And I also I had breakfast with Bill Chase, who's been on the show. He was the creator of Franklin and Bash, the guy that came on. So we had breakfast. It was great to catch up with him. I was supposed to meet up with Eddie from Warehouse 13.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he had to fly to an event. He was doing he was doing a convention. So he's literally flying out like the hour I was flying in. So we didn't get to cross paths, but it was cool to catch up with some former guests, you know. Scott says it's only a matter of time until we start seeing CQ do inspirational dude, what do you mean start? I've been doing that shit. I've been doing that shit longer than I've been doing the host of Pop Culture Warrior. How do you think WTF Nation Radio found me?
But it was like fucking like it was like some technical college in the like BFE Kentucky or some shit. That don't count.
Hey,
Like,
listen.
they didn't even get a bachelor's or an associate's degree. They got a certificate, like welding certificate or some shit. They don't want inspiration from you. They're trying to go to work, son.
Anyway.
Oh wait.
Should we maybe talk about some pop culture news while we're here? You know,
Is there any? I don't know. Is there any to talk about?
There's a few things. So we did speak about the slap heard around the world, but something else that happened at the Oscars that upset me even more. Okay, it upset me even more.
Oh,
for the first time ever, the Academy Awards decided, you know what? Sometimes we don't recognize movies and things that are impactful to people that they don't consider, art, whatever. So they said, okay, they collaborated with Twitter. They were using a special hashtag, which was, oh Christ, I don't remember the specific hashtag was. Fan favorite something. The idea was they wanted to honor the most exciting scene from the fan perspective of the last, couple. And I think they did like the last 10 years or something like that. Like they didn't even do like this year. They said, hey, we're opening it up. What was your most exciting scene? And you use the special hashtag, whatever. Now, in second place was Spider-Man No Way Home, the scene with the 3 Spider-Mans coming together to fight. Great,
Yes.
Great scene. Very exciting scene. In third place was Avengers Assembled Endgame, right? When all the Avengers, when Captain America lifts the Thor hammer and all the Avengers charge for. So like these are great scenes. Do you know what won the crowd favorite cheer, whatever it was called?
No, because I would have said an Endgame where
I would
fucking
agree with
Cap
you.
grabs Mjolnir.
I would
That'd have been
I
mine.
would agree with you.
So if it's better than that, I don't know.
It was this scene. Hang on, let me pull this up. Oh no, that's not it. That's definitely not
That's
it.
Mobius.
Yeah, don't look at Mobius. That's definitely not. It was this scene. This scene from Zack Snyder's second attempt at the Justice League when Barry Allen goes into the Speed Force at the end of the movie. That one, which don't get me wrong, nice scene. Nice scene, sure. But that one fan favorite scene, him by himself going into the Speed Force, which is something he does all the time. This upset me.
Yeah,
This
that's
upset
not
me.
cool.
We had the Spider-Men breaking boundaries, crossing universes and literal film IP properties to all be in one scene. That gets second. You have the culmination of 10 years of Marvel building up this moment and doing Avengers Endgame, all the Avengers charging the field to take on Thanos. I still have goosebumps. I legit got goosebumps just thinking about the scene.
Yes.
And you give it to the Flash for going into this bluish, fuzzy tunnel.
I would have almost said that Endgame should have won. And then I think Endgame was better than all the Spider-Man fighting together because that was kind of alluded to before.
Sure.
Right? Maybe that first one where he he opens the portal.
They jump out, yeah.
And he jumps out. Like that maybe had a little bit more shock factor.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I don't definitely not the Flash.
In fourth, fourth came Dreamgirls with Effie singing "I'm Telling You" and I'm telling you, there's no way.
You basically could have had any fucking for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I forget what it was. It was even bigger.
Any Disney fucking song.
Yeah. You know what's
could have been Bruno. I mean, we don't talk about Bruno. Could have been fucking Frozen. It could have been fucking any of those.
In fifth, you want to talk about
more impactful than this.
You want to talk about legendary. In fifth, this is ground-defying cinema happening. Was Neo in the original Matrix dodging the bullets? Right.
Yes.
That was groundbreaking. We had never seen something like that in cinema ever. It was an incredible moment in the movie and in cinema, and that came in fifth. And Barry going this.
No, that's fucking that's nothing.
That was the crowd. That is an Oscar award-winning scene.
No. Nothing about it was special. Nothing about it. I mean, you know what? There's more. There's better scenes. There are better scenes that are post-credit scenes in Marvel movies than that.
Yeah. And look, we got Thomas says Spider-Man should have won, first of all. Yep. Scott says the Vader scene at the end of Rogue One
Yes.
when Vader's doing. I'll give you that. That
Yep.
was a badass scene.
That was a good scene.
That was a badass scene. So I mean, really, I mean, I could name dozens.
There's way too many, dude. I can't, man. There's way too many better than that.
So
Sorry about it. Like that's just, I just can't believe it. I don't see how that
yeah.
There's better scenes of Batman in a lot of the Batmans.
I mean,
Not even trying to be mean at DC or nothing, but
No.
that just was not that special a thing.
I don't know. I can't make it make sense.
No,
That's just me. I can't make it make sense.
but here's the thing though, and this is where I'm gonna take their side a minute. Okay, if you put some shit up just completely to the internet, which apparently they did.
Which they did.
Look at when they're like, we got a new tugboat. What should we name our new tugboat, internet? They're like, Tuggy McTuckface. Right, now we got to name it this.
Mhm.
Or the best taco restaurant in the nation is Taco Bell. Because when I think quality tacos, I think Taco Bell.
Yeah.
No, motherfucker, I go to Taco Bell because I'm broke.
And I'm constipated, so I need to help move things along.
Yes. I don't go there for quality tacos. I go to the nasty ass fucking taco truck where I don't know if that's going to pass health inspection. Fuck no, it ain't. But you know what? They got some tacos. Just saying.
Yeah.
So when you leave things up to the internet, you get stupid bullshit like, oh, this is the best fucking thing in the world. Or Taco Bell's got the best tacos.
Yeah.
Or
So-
Bodie McBoatface is our new fucking land yacht or some shit. So you gotta you can't trust the internet. And when are these motherfuckers gonna learn that? You cannot trust the internet.
Can't trust the internet. Can't do it. Can't do it. Mike Larson says Speed 2 was better than this scene.
Yeah.
That was funny. That's funny. All right.
It could have been any time that they've been like, this is family, whatever, and fucking
one
Too
more
Fast, Too
thing.
Furious.
One more thing I want to talk about.
All right.
We might take a little break. This man. Oh, this
Ugh.
guy.
I've heard bad things.
This guy. Reviews are coming out. And unlike talking shit about Moon Knight, which people have only seen the first episode, so you can go, well, it could turn around. People have seen the full movie. And kind of like I've been saying for a while, I got a bad feeling about this one. And so one film journalist, Sab Astley, says Morbius is about as bad as you were expecting, which is funny because it's like he's talking straight to me. He says it's a 2005 plot. It collides with visually confusing CGI to create a snooze fest. But don't worry, they saved the worst for last, featuring some of the worst post-credit scenes you've ever seen. Sony is off its rocker. So there's not a lot good to take out of that. More tweets of people saying it's boring, disjointed. People saying that it's a victim of obvious butchering by a studio that has no clue what they wanted to do with it. Not that there's a good film anywhere trapped in there. Just saying. Morbius hits theaters April 1st. So, now, all that being said, I will go see it. I'm not happy about it, but I will go see it.
I will reluctantly go
to
see it.
I will.
Because here's the deal. I remember when this first kind of became a reality and they were first showing scenes of it, you were really excited for this.
I was excited because I enjoyed Morbius growing up in the 90s.
Oh, I know.
I enjoyed those properties. The Midnight Suns, the Dark Hawk and Blade and all that stuff. I love that stuff. And Morbius was part of that clique. And Venom. I kind of have a love-hate with Venom, the movie. because I think it should have been so much more. Like it was good enough, but I feel like it could have been so much more. And apparently, this Morbius takes place in that kind of Venom universe. Yeah,
Do you think it was wrong to give Sony that property?
Well, it's not a necessary. It's not a fact of giving him.
No, but I'm saying like, okay, I know.
Sony owns all those properties. They own it.
Yeah, but they fuck them up and they give them the Marvel. They make decent movies out of, or make them together.
Well,
or whatever.
that's the
Do you
thing.
think?
That's
well,
the
and
thing.
that's are they going? And this is where I don't understand the universes anymore now that there's been so many crossovers and all this other bullshit.
Yeah.
But if you would have had Marvel Studios either co-produce it or whatever, do you think it could have been? Because I feel like this story could have been good.
Oh yeah, I mean, if Spider-Man
like,
No Way Home
should they just buy all this shit from like Sony? Be like, look, dude, you're fucking our shit up. Like, here's a fucking bajillion dollars. Give us our shit. You're not gonna do anything good with it anyway. The only reason you've made money off Spider-Man is because we've done it for you.
Pretty much.
Just come on. This is ours now. Thank you. Bye. See ya.
Unfortunately, I don't see Sony selling at any time because they're riding high off the success of, like you said, of working with Marvel and connecting the universes ever so slightly.
But okay, but if they're going to turn around right after one of the most successful movies of all time, and then release something that is kind of, so far anyway, granted, a lot of us haven't seen it, but it's a fucking snooze fest and it's fucking bullshit, and the CGI is confusing, and all of the things that me as a non-pop cultured warrior, right? When I see something with that kind of, in that scope, in that universe, right? I know there's a DC universe and a Marvel universe, right?
Right.
I may not know exactly who is making what and why. Okay. I know a little bit more being involved with you and being involved with the show, but Radar from 3 years ago would not have known that.
For sure.
So if that comes out as a Marvel property, right? Or Marvel and with Sony, and Sony owns Marvel, whatever the fuck, right? I'm gonna go to the theater. I'm gonna see that and be like, this is fucking bullshit. I'm not gonna go watch the next. I'm not gonna. Well, how do I know Doctor Strange ain't garbage?
Yeah, it's gonna put some stank on Marvel properties. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So in order to protect that brand, like, is there any way for them to kind of protect themselves, like, other than make it very well clear that this is not our bullshit. This is their bullshit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the thing. Sony is riding the coattails of Marvel.
Absolutely.
And here's the thing, I give them credit. It seems like they're trying to make better movies, right? They're getting good actors. They're getting somewhat decent writers. They've been putting money into CGI. That's not terrible. But I don't think they know what they're doing.
And like I said, the other option is maybe don't even sell outright. Just
co-produce everything.
Co-produce it, or just get royalties from it or something. Just give it to Marvel, and with the agreement, you're going to get so much in royalties. You're going to get so much in this or so much in this, or that your percentage of sales or whatever.
It would be.
They're
nice.
Fucking fancy. They know what the fuck they're doing.
I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. Absolutely, it would be nice. I'm going to toss us to a quick break here, and we will be back with more show after this, guys. So stay tuned.
You're listening to the sounds of WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, you there? Yeah, it is right, you. Let me ask you something, alright? Where the hell do you think that you're going? Oh, would you think because the show is going to commercial that means you get to just walk away? Well, CQ asked me to pass on the little message, alright? And it says, I'll be back.
I stood there in that middle of church with a bottle of gin in my hand. I'm looking up at the rooftop like I'm trying to find my long lost friend. My days turn to nights, my nights turn to weeks when you're living life on the road. I'm halfway back to New Orleans with a few more drinks to go. I said, tip 'em on back. Well, let's tip 'em on back. I finally made it back to Bourbon Street, picking some of them old night bars, hoping I could find myself playing music on my guitar. For the kid around, they all shouted out as the drinks began to flow. I pulled out that old guitar, then I showed them how to do-si-do. I said, tip 'em on back. Well, let's tip 'em on back. Church with a bottle of gin in my hand, looking up at the rooftop like I'm trying to find my long lost friend. Days turn to nights, but nights turn to weeks when you live a life on the road. Halfway back to New Orleans with a few more drinks to go. I said, tip 'em on back. Well, let's tip 'em on back.
The voice of U.S. Army, WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Looking up and fading out, serious shapes I found blow me away. Van Allen right around, pushing through, skin is brown, nature has us trapped in fear, so I get lost inside.
The voice of U.S. Army, WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for bearing with us. You know, my tech decides to work when it wants and not work when it doesn't want, but that's all right. We are here. We are ready to go. Let's see. Make sure my cameras are good. Everybody's still with us. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We really appreciate it. Tonight, we've got a good one for you. My guest tonight is a... Why is my camera white? There he goes. My guest tonight is a fourth-generation Asian American who was born in Los Angeles, California. Growing up as an athlete, he played collegiate football at Yale University while earning a BA, and then went on to achieve a dual JD MBA degree. Soon after achieving his scholastic goals, he realized that he needed to switch careers and pursue his passion for the entertainment industry, and especially as an actor. He got his first big break when he was cast in the TV series Beyond the Break. He began appearing in guest star roles on major hit series such as NCIS Los Angeles, Supergirl, Chicago PD. His determination and work ethic landed him a role in the blockbuster film Lone Survivor opposite Mark Wahlberg, as well as Salt alongside Angelina Jolie. He's also been seen performing stunts as a first-degree black belt in Taekwondo in G.I. Joe, Rise of the Cobra, The Green Hornet, Gamer, and Crank 2 High Voltage. Since then, you may have seen him in the Cinemax drama series Warrior, a television series inspired by the writings and work of Bruce Lee, or in the Paramount Network's Waco alongside Michael Shannon and Taylor Kitsch. He's appeared on season 4 of Amazon's critically acclaimed The Man in the High Castle. And well, needless to say, 2022 has been a big year for him as well, because he's been cast in reoccurring roles on CBS's Magnum PI, Netflix partner Track, Apple's Hello Tomorrow. He will also be seen on FX The Old Man opposite Jeff Bridges on the streaming service Hulu. Everyone, woo, what an intro. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, the amazing Rich Ting. Yay! Sorry, there's no applause button. I'm working on that.
All good. All good.
How you doing, bud?
Great. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, no, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come do this. I know by no means are we Good Morning America here, right? But we have a passionate, fun, loyal fan base, and big fans of your work, as well as all the work of these people that are putting entertainment out for the masses. So thank you so much for being a part of that. The first question right out of the gate, I always like to ask my guests, especially because, you know, we're so military connected and have a lot of veterans out in the community. Do you have a military connection, whether you served or a family member served, or just really passionate about those who've served?
I don't have a direct affiliation or connection with the military services. However, I mean, growing up in California, also splitting my time in Hawaii near Pearl Harbor, and then obviously taking part in films such as Lone Survivor, I have the utmost respect for all branches of our military, for our men and women of our armed forces. So I'm just blessed to have had that exposure and to see the different branches and the different locations I've actually lived, worked in, and as well as represented. You know what I mean? By no means do I have the bravery or the skill level to be one of our armed forces, you know, out there. So that's why I have the utmost respect and gratitude for our branches and allowing people like myself to have careers as actors in Hollywood.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you for the support. That means a lot. Man, there's so much. You know, I was reading through your bio, looking at, you know, your IMDb page and all, you know, really getting to learn the actor and the roles you've been given. First thing that jumped out to me is that you're, unlike, let's say, the majority of actors, you're not a transplant to Los Angeles. You were born and raised there. Is that I'm sorry. I'm assuming, does that play a part into wanting to be an actor? Did you, because you grew up around that scene, or did you always have an interest in it? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you know, I didn't actually realize I was a minority, so to speak, until I got in the business, because there aren't a lot of, you know, Los Angeles born and raised quote unquote actors or entertainers, which, you know, to me I discovered while doing it. I could honestly say, yeah, growing up in the LA area as a kid, you know, the entertainment industry is everywhere. So it definitely has an impact on you, especially like my generation. I grew up in the 80s. So to see a lack of representation as far as especially Asian American leading men on television or in cinema, you know, was always kind of a question mark, even at a young age. You know, I grew up, you know, when Michael Jackson was here, you know, obviously, you know, a lot of the Bruce Lee movies, which inspired me a lot, you know, were still kind of making their way around the world at that point. And, you know, it just, it was weird because people think, you know, do I have an advantage being born and raised in LA? in Hollywood, so to speak. And to be honest, it's such a fair level playing field. I mean, I always say I had to wait in line. I didn't have an agent. I didn't know how to get a manager. I really didn't even know how to get a headshot, to be honest. So a lot of these basic things I felt as foreign to my own hometown city as someone who moved across country. So, long story short, I felt the only advantage is I just knew where to go to eat. I knew where to go to hang out, but as far as that, work wise, there really wasn't an advantage, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, yeah. You know the traffic. You knew
Exactly.
that part.
Yeah. I know how I'm going to get from A to B, but I don't necessarily know how I'm going to get cast or how I'm going to get an agency,
Right.
especially in the beginning.
I would imagine growing up in high school and all that. Like, did you have a lot of your peers that were like, "Well, I'm gonna miss the prom because I'm doing audition season," and like different things like that? I mean, was that something?
You know what? No. And it's weird. I think Los Angeles, especially, the wider LA area, which, one thing about LA is that it's so spread out, So there are people that grow up in the West Side that literally will never travel 15 miles inland, like throughout their entire life, literally. People that live in downtown that won't go south, like to Orange County, which is, like a 20-minute drive. So, there are these little bubbles, that we kind of grow up in. And fortunately for me, I grew up earlier in LA and then moved to San Francisco for high school. So I kind of had like a northern Southern California kind of exposure, which really opened my eyes to how different California is, just a few hours away. And so, I really wasn't influenced by my peers. It was more like anyone else, where I'm a fan of TV, I'm a fan of film, and growing up, I had certain heroes that I just looked up to, and that's kind of where the bug started at a very young age. It wasn't, throughout my career, I've definitely been influenced by my peers that are literally left and right of me, right? But
Mhm.
as far as trying to get into the industry, there was no advantage there just because I really didn't know anyone that was doing it.
Yeah, and like we said in your intro, you know, professionally, you went to college. You played collegiate football, which I'm curious. What was the position? What'd you play?
I got recruited as a quarterback and as a free safety, and back then it was the Pac-10, and I really wanted to stay home, in California on the West Coast, and being 6'1", that's a short quarterback, for the Pac-10 at the time. This is when the 6'3", 6'4" guys. So I was recruited more on the defensive side to Stanford, some other Pac-10 schools. Luckily, I wanted to play quarterback still and fight for that position. So the Ivy Leagues gave me that opportunity to kind of stick with it, even though I literally I played slot, I played tail, I played defense, I was in special teams, I was trained as a quarterback. So they kind of used me as a quote unquote athlete once I got to Yale.
You were
I
the
just, again, you get there, you don't want to sit on the bench, so you kind of volunteer for wherever the team quote unquote needs you the most.
Yeah, the Swiss Army knife. You were the jack of all
Yeah,
trades.
literally utility. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, but
Very cool.
great experience. Football was definitely my first love, my first identity, and happy to have used all my eligibility up. So there's no regrets, and I can kind of leave that behind and move on to other things.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe down the line, there's a role of a football player. I don't know. Some of these guys get,
Yeah.
who knows what. You play a guy in his.
I mean, I try to stay in shape as best as I can, you know what I mean? And even though I haven't thrown a ball literally in a few years, muscle memory kicks in. So I'm always ready for that.
Yeah.
That would be epic.
Yeah, you got to be ready for the opportunities. So you did finish school. How soon from, because you got the dual JD MBA.
Mhm.
How soon from finishing that did you realize, okay, the passion is there for acting, and I want to get into the business and I want to pursue that?
I would say the passion was always there, to be honest, ever since I was a kid. I mean, just growing up, like how you introed me with, I am fourth generation Asian American, which is, on the mainland of US, aside from Hawaii, it is unique in a sense where there aren't a lot of us. Let's say, a lot of my friends that were of Asian descent were a first generation, or 1.5 is what they called it. So that being said, my parents had a strong athletic background themselves, so they pushed us, my brothers and I, towards the sports more than the academics. But with that, the reason I bring that up is because there was no time for the arts when I was a kid. There was no time for me to play an instrument or learn an instrument. There was no time for me to participate in theater. But those opportunities you get as a kid, when you're forced to because of requirements, right? I definitely took those opportunities and actually fell in love being on stage. I fell in love, performing martial arts in front of a crowd. So, whether it was basketball, football, baseball, taekwondo tournaments, I was always used to being in front of an audience, so that bug. And then when I went to Yale, obviously the infamous Yale School of Drama is definitely contagious. I didn't major in theater, but I definitely exposed myself to that art when I was there, and going to plays and going to musicals and whatnot. It was always there, and it always kind of like was in the back of my head. And even, to be honest, it didn't become a reality until I got into grad school, where I literally had more time to train at acting studios and train with coaches for fun. That was definitely the path, was to kind of pursue being a corporate attorney with the JD MBA dual degree. But now without football and sports, I had a lot more time. So I started doing it as my yoga, as kind of like just an extracurricular to kind of just, experiment with. And slowly, I started getting approached. I did a lot of modeling work in front of the still camera. I started doing some commercial work, and, the universe is weird like that. It just kind of starts directing you, and the tunnel starts getting narrower, and the road just starts, you get all these intersections of different things. And it finally happened.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And guys, yeah, I already see questions coming in. Remember, if you have questions for Rich, throw them in the chats. We'll get to them, as many as we can. So first, right out the gate, from Tim Morgan, he says, your first big paycheck, what did you spoil yourself with?
Wow. That, the word big is so
vague, right?
So it's so vague, because, you go through these different points of your life where maybe $100 is like the biggest check, and that's a great question. Actually, no one's asked me that. I mean, like I said, $100 at one point was big. It was huge. You know what I mean? I think it was probably something for my mom, to be honest. Like, that was kind of my thing. She's been my number one supporter. And I do remember getting her something, whenever and whatever that big check was for, you know what I mean?
Right.
This business is so self-investing, where, you have to, you gotta invest for headshots, for demo reels, you gotta, all the money's going out before it's coming in. So my first check, that I think that I can remember definitely was for my mom. However, every other check after that was probably just to repay my own debt I had,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I definitely had to, I had definitely had to give thanks in some form of materialistic gift to my mom, just because, she's been in my corner since day one.
Hey, that's awesome, man. That means you got raised right, looking to give back and say thank you. That's huge. So I mean, you've moved into now the acting, and sorry, I'm doing this like chronologically in my head. So now we've you moved into the acting, and can you recall the feeling that you booked that first thing? You got the role, and you're gonna play this character, and you're excited. Like, what did that mean to you in that moment to get booked that first thing?
Yeah, again, so many levels and platforms to this industry is what I like to, I segment it like that in my head, just so I can kind of track my progress and my growth as an artist in this, in this hectic world that I work in. The first job, like you mentioned again in the intro, was I got booked actually when I was in law school and business school for a recurring role on this show called Beyond the Break. And to be honest, when I booked that, because I wasn't pursuing the acting jobs as a full-time career, it was fun. It was fun. It was like, hey, I got nothing to do this weekend. Why not, go see what it's like to film on, as a guest star on a TV show that happens to be filming in the same city as my law school and business school. So that was kind of a cool feeling, it was like, oh yeah, this is great. By no means at that point did I think I would be transitioning into this business full time. I think once I made that decision upon graduating law school and business school and actually taking a job back in LA at a law firm, which brought me back to LA, I think the first job that really was impactful was when I got cast for this Warner Brothers show called Ben 10 Race Against Time, which is based on a comic, which is based on a cartoon. And Warner Brothers decided to do a TV movie of it. And through connections and networking, they thought I'd be a perfect match for the character of Heat Blast. And that's actually the big step, was where I was like, wow, I have to commit. I have to be on set this many days. I have to do the prep and rehearsal and R&D for this many days. I can't be kind of double dipping in two jobs. So that's when I kind of left the legal industry, the corporate America world, and decided to go full in, you know. And so that job was very monumental to me, just because it represented that transition, that jump from what I had been training on as an academic person to this artistic world that I'd only dreamed of entering. And you know, I distinctly remember we were on the Warner Brothers lot doing rehearsal for this big, you know, fight scene, and it was right near the Back to the Future clock, right? And like literally, and then, you know, the tour buses are coming around with the tourists, and it was really surreal because, you know, I was on the clock working, yet I almost felt like I was a viewer because, you know, I had taken these tours as a kid as well on these different studio lots, and now I'm on one. So I think it was pretty surreal, but at the same time, like I was so focused on the job, I didn't realize what was happening, but it was definitely a very, very monumental moment for me in my career.
Yeah,
For sure.
I can imagine surreal, almost like out of body, like you're doing the thing, but you're seeing
Yeah.
yourself do the thing.
I've had a couple of those experiences, to be honest, where like just real quick, I'll give you another example. You know, a lot later into my career, when I got cast for Amazon season 4, The Man in the High Castle, you know, I had been a fan of that show from season 1, and you know, I knew all the characters, I knew the storyline, and we actually auditioned for different characters for the first 3 seasons. But you know, people that are familiar with that show realize that, you know, there's only, you know, one guy gets knocked off, there's only one replacement, you know? And so it's kind of like we were just waiting for the right character to come up. But when we booked it, and then we actually shot it in Vancouver, when I got there and I met the cast, it was an out of body experience because I know these characters because I was such a fan of the show. And that one's really special just because of my connection with the show prior to actually being in it. And the fact that it's an alternate universe, you know, it's not like you just go outside right now and you're like, oh yeah, we're shooting it. Like we were transferred into this universe on set, you know, with these amazing, like, you know, CG effects and whatnot. And that was a very cool experience.
Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome. We do have more questions coming in. Although Captain Wayne, he has any tips on acting, but I feel like that's a bit vague. So do you have general tips?
Yeah, I mean, I remember one of the guys, you know, one of my seniors that I looked up to entering the business and had a chance to work with him. You know, the first thing he told me, he just said, you know, are you in a class? And I said, 100%, you know, and that's something that I highly recommend, you know, just get in a class, start working out. You know, it's almost like it's the same question I get, which is like, hey, how do I get in shape? You know what I mean? It's like, get to a gym, you know, get on that treadmill, start walking, just start walking, you know, do some machines, you know, get familiar with, you know, with your environment. And so, you know, I get that question a lot, actually, you know, from people coming up and youngsters in the game. And I put a lot of stress on that because people, you know, they think of that like as school, you know, they go, I don't want to take an acting class, or I don't want to get into an acting studio, but then you shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? You need to get around your peers. You need to get on a stage. You need to feel what that feels like. You know, you need to watch. I've learned so much more from watching my peers perform than actually performing myself. You know, and the only way you experience that is in an actor's studio, you know, and it's great. It's contagious because you're there because you want to be there, and everyone to your left and right is there for the same reason, you know? So some people think, I don't want to go to class, man. Like, you know, I'm tired of school, but it's a different type of study. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I definitely recommend just getting in a class.
Yeah. I mean, it's so, you know, I can imagine that, yes, you're going to learn on the job, but you're going to maybe get booked for more things when you know what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, like anything else, you need a foundation. You know what I mean? And one thing I'll compare it to is like my martial arts background, right? Like I've been doing martial arts since the age of 4 years old. I've studied different forms. My foundation is in Taekwondo. That doesn't mean though I'm going to be able to transfer that skill in front of a camera with other stunt players and a stunt coordinator. It doesn't. They're completely separate entities. And so with the acting, it's the same approach, which is you need to have a foundation so that when you get on a set with a director, with a second unit, choreographer, you're able to be molded. You got to be able to be flexible, metaphorically, because a punch in real life is not going to sell like a punch on a camera. You know what I mean? The reason why we have these big action sequences and these huge fight scenes and these crazy, artistic martial art moves is because we fabricate it for camera. Anyone that's a real martial artist, is going to realize that doesn't happen in a real fight, right? But the majority of our audiences are not professional martial artists or MMA fighters or UFC guys, right? So we got to make it a little bit more dramatic. And the only way you can do that is if you have a foundation. It's as simple as instead of throwing a punch straight, we got to come wide. And in reality, you would never teach to come wide, as simple as that sounds, but on camera, it projects so much more. So, another great question I get from people coming up in the business is, you got to have that foundation, as an actor, as an artist, so that when you get on set and you get with other creatives, you're able to take their notes and make those adjustments.
No, that's great. Yeah, I can imagine you talking about that makes me think of like, hey, I'm former Army. I was an infantry guy. I shot a lot of guns, and you see some of these movies that some of them do really great. Black Hawk Down and Lone Survivor. These are movies that really put a lot of effort into all that. But then you see other movies where you're like, oh my God, no trigger discipline. Oh my God, the patches are all wrong. Yeah. Oh my God, all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I bring that humbleness to a project like Lone Survivor, where, I come into that set and much respect to Peter Berg, our director, and Mark Wahlberg and the entire cast, because, that set was filled with real military servicemen and women that were extras, so everyone on that base, everyone in those scenes were real, either current active or veterans. And that made me feel very small because I come in as an actor. That's it. I'm an actor to play a person who unfortunately lost their lives during that period. And so I'm honoring him. I'm also honoring, our US military. But at the end of the day, I am an actor, right? And so the last thing I want to do is represent what you guys do and have done for us in a incorrect way, right? So even with that, I had to be the most flexible. I had to adjust, and I'm a perfectionist by nature. So, when I watch stuff and I don't believe it in areas that I'm more expertise in than others, let's say, it really bothers me as a viewer, so like what you said, whether it's just, how you enter a building, how is your footwork? A lot of people, even though the camera may be here, your footwork is going to affect your body language and that chemistry with your other people in a line, let's say, right? And I may not have the right terminology, but I know the overall effect and what it's supposed to look like. So, coming on a set like Lone Survivor, I was taking notes the entire show, like the entire few months I was working on that. I'm just listening to every service guy, story after story, and I was telling them, because, a lot of times they try to keep us separated. They're like, don't bother the actors, and I frown on that a little bit, because I understand, we need our space to work and to get into character and whatnot. But, there's a lot of what I say gold around me, which, you may be to my right and looking at me and being like, oh, he's holding that wrong, and that's where I really welcomed everyone to coach me. I wanted to be coached, right. I wanted to know the proper footwork. I wanted to know the proper hand placement. I want to know, literally, is it look first or aim for, whatever it is, and because at the end of the day, I did not want, and a lot of footage got cut as they always do in that final edit. But whatever was shown, I wanted it to be 100% believable to an individual like yourself. Yeah. I could care less, honestly. This may sound really bad, but I could care less about the non-military viewer that just wanted to see stuff get blown up, right? Like, you're going to see that. I wanted the guy who's active, who's watching it on another part of the world, and be like, wow, this is the most accurate depiction, right, of what we do, you know. So I mean, and I take that mentality to everything I do, you know, whether it's language, you know, whether it's fighting, um, you know, people that I love it because, you know, I'm in a recent show that I did called Warrior on HBO Max. You know, my character is we developed him in the Hungar Kung Fu basis. So martial artists out there in the world are going to understand and know what that means. Yet, you know, it's Hollywood. So I'm going to throw some kicks and stuff that aren't necessarily in that form, right? And I got called out a lot in funny ways, like, hey, dude, like you're not sticking to like that specific art. And I'm like, I know, but the director, the stunt choreographer, you know, they want this, you know? So, you know, again, you know, I want people to be able to laugh about it and enjoy it, but I really try to perfect my craft for those individuals out there that are experts. And I want to represent that expert level as best as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, hey, I can hear in listening to you talk, I'm hearing a little bit of that utility guy, the guy that was, I want to be coached. I want to be on the field. I want to do what I can
100%,
and make it better.
100%.
So it's so cool to see that it's still, that translates and it still comes through, whether you're on the football field or, you know, on the combat mat doing some martial arts or, you know, behind the camera. That's pretty awesome.
Totally.
And
I love it. I love it when I get tech advisors, you know, weapons guys that, you know, have a background in the military, you know, because there's an instant trust there. There's an instant sense of respect. You know, I remember in another show you mentioned, I played a sniper, an FBI HRT sniper in the show Waco. And I remember the gun we used wasn't the best gun to use technically, but aesthetically it was.
Right.
And it was jamming some of the times. And I remember my tech advisor, who has a, you know, resume, you know, that's crazy long, was just telling me, look, I think he said, you know, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
slow, smooth,
right?
smooth, fast. That's right.
And, you know, because, you know, when the camera's rolling, the adrenaline's pumping and, you know, I got targets lining up and they want to really sell it. Right. It was jamming. He was like, dude, just take your time, you know? And he, you know, then he starts telling me, you know, what he's done and, you know, stuff like that really helps me as an actor, you know what I mean? Cause it's so true. You know what I mean? There's a sense of calmness. There's an exhale, you know, it's an intense situation, but guys that have done it for real, you know, that they're able to control it, you know, and that sense of control is what I really wanted to demonstrate. And, you know, maybe people picked it up on camera. Maybe they didn't, it didn't matter. It's how I felt. And that's where I think the character comes alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's authentic to who you want that character to be and
Totally.
resonate it out to the audience, whether like you said, whether they pick it up or not.
Exactly.
You've done, okay. So there's one question from Jim. So Jim, I'm going to edit this a bit because his question is, who would you never act with again? And I know in the business, you know, we gotta, I put it, have you been in a situation where there's someone where you're like, I'd rather not work with you again?
I mean, I think it's pretty universal. I'm going to have to, you know, obviously take the PC route on this one. But I mean, yeah, like the one thing, you know, and I do get asked this question, you know, or who have you worked with that you hate or whatever, you know what I mean? And here's the thing. We've all worked with people we hate. There's a lot of us right now that are working with people we can't stand, right? But we do it because, you know, we're adults and we're mature. And, you know, the way I look at it is like this. Being an actor is such an individual sport. And that's actually one of the reasons I hate this business, to be honest. Because, you know, like you said, I've grown up always on a team. I've always had fellow teammates, you know, and we all come together to strive for a common goal. You would ideally think that's what happens on a show where you have a group of actors who are trying to bring something from paper to real life to show to millions around the world. The problem is all of us are individuals, you know, our training, our daily life prior to these shows that we book, you know, it's quite lonely. You know what I mean? And I'm just fortunate to have a team background and foundation that I've been raised with so that when I do get on a set and I'm working with people, to me, it's very exciting. You know, it's thrilling to now have to go to, and instead of waking up tomorrow, which I will wake up tomorrow because I'm not on the clock right now, I will wake up tomorrow and I will go through my daily regimen as I always do by myself. you know. So when I'm able to go to a studio or go to location and work with other people, whether they're difficult or not, I really try to find the silver lining in those situations. Because the reality is you're never going to work in an ideal situation. You know what I mean? You always have to be able to adjust, to accommodate, and at the end of the day, be professional. You know, and I think that's a big word right now. You know, for those that witnessed the
Mm,
Oscars the other day, right? And I
mm,
think you know, you always, you know, we're put on certain platforms, whether, like I said, there's always different levels to this game, right? We're all public figures to an extent. And I just, I just really try to emphasize the professionalism, you know, and that's universal, dude, with any job, you know what I mean? So, fortunately, to be honest, there hasn't been anyone that bad where I'm like, I do not want to work with them. There are people that I prefer not to, but it's not like going to determine whether I take a job or not. It'll
right.
just kind of, you know, maybe I'll roll my eyes a little bit before, but you know, I'll show up for sure. You know, but again, you know, you just gotta, you know, that's, you know, it's just being professional.
Yeah. And I think, if you, for the everyman to equate it to like, hey, there's always someone in the office you don't like working with. There's always that person.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
there is.
and on a set, I mean, expand it out, right? Because there's dozens of actors, there's extras, there's writers, producers, like
Oh
all
yeah.
these people. So, I mean, it's rare that you're gonna be like, oh wow, everybody's a happy family and we all love each other. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't even think. I mean, I've been on some shows where you know the joke is everything's too good to be true, right? But you know, there's just. I mean, we figure there's over like 200 people that are working on a single shot. I mean, I think if you do, if there's not one guy or one girl in that 200 population, something is wrong. You know what I mean? There's got to be. You know what I mean? Someone's got to be having a bad day somewhere, right?
right.
So, um, but you know, like I said, I can only relate it to you know other jobs and other careers. You know, we all go through it. You know, it's all the same at the end of the day.
Right. From Kaz in the chats, I think this is funny. He says, "Is that a bobblehead of yourself next to the over your shoulder?"
Yeah, that guy right there. Actually, that's a bobblehead of my character of Bolo on HBO Max's Warrior. Um, but yeah, yeah, I got that. I got that a couple years ago. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Is there any speaking of that, like, is there any collectibles that you've kept from a set, like a costume, a prop? Is there any mementos you've kept over the years?
Yeah, I actually, you know, I try to keep something to be honest from every show I do. It's just a question of whether uh, it's allowed or not. But yeah, like from Warrior, for example, you know, Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, who was one of our EPs and a you know very close friend of mine, she was able to gift me, as well as Jonathan Tropper, our showrunner. They were able to gift me and my actual weapon that I use, which is kind of like it's like a hatchet and it has like a spike at the end, and
Right.
it was actually molded to my hand and built for me. It was a very customized, very unique, particular piece to me. So that's why it meant a lot to me to keep that. And I was able to keep. I use a railroad spike in that show as well, and that was a very that was actually made for me upon my request to actually not show during our filming. It was just one of those things that I wanted to have on me to feed me as the character, and we ended up highlighting it in one of our episodes, and it became a big thing. But I was able to keep both of those, and you know, whether it's like you know a jacket or a hat or something,
Sure.
you know, usually the producers and the showrunners and the creatives are pretty generous, you know, as giving you a token of something that you can remember the show by. So yeah, I have my section in my closet where I keep all my stuff. So
Yeah, you got to display
yeah,
stuff, man. You got to like the wall
yeah,
of
yeah,
memorabilia. Um,
exactly.
what else? Oh, so I was reading up on you, and I read that you love to travel, and that you're a true foodie at heart. And
Yeah.
that struck me. With all the things that you do, where you're an athlete and a martial artist and an actor, foodie. Where does that play into it?
Yeah. Um, that's a great question. You know, I think it's a product of just being able to work and travel in this business. You know, growing up, I never really traveled. I grew up half the time in Hawaii, but like other than that, not even leaving the West Coast was a thing. We just kind of San Francisco to LA to Hawaii. That was kind of like the triangle. And being a collegiate athlete, summers weren't available to travel as well. And I couldn't study abroad and whatnot. So, upon booking these jobs, early in my career, going to like Southeast Asia, going to Vietnam, going to Thailand, then venturing north to like, Japan, China, Korea, then in South Africa where we filmed Warrior, and then I've done a ton of stuff in Canada as well. I just started kind of exploring, and I would try something here, try something there, upon being disciplined with my diet, of course, and slowly I started really getting into it, as far as like desserts, for example. I never was a dessert guy, right? And all of a sudden, like I would go to these, I kind of hate that I went there because now I crave it, right? But I'd go to these like bakeries, throughout different parts of the world, and just this most simplest thing you eat, and you're like, oh my god, what is this? Like this is fantastic, and then you come back to LA, and everyone thinks LA is, we have all these restaurants and bars and lounges and whatnot, but I would say there's more quantity than quality here, to be honest, if I'm going to be a food critic, so, that's another thing that motivates me, because I get excited to go to these certain places, just because, even New York, for example, I think New York is such a gold mine of just cuisine, just because of like the demographics that it attracts as opposed to LA. So that's where that foodie thing has come about. It's been kind of surprising, to be honest, because to me back in the day when I'm training, it's all bland foods, right? It's all it's rice, it's chicken, it's vegetables, and I eat to live. I don't eat to enjoy, is what I always used to say. But now I try to have a balanced deal where I still eat to survive, but I also eat to enjoy if I'm allowed those cheat days or whatnot.
You gotta live a little, man. You gotta enjoy it.
Yeah. So that's a sheer product of just my job, to be honest.
Nice. Oh, I like that. I like that. And I do have to touch on, because we're a pop culture show here, that you were on an episode of Supergirl, superhero show, and you got to play Metallo, or another version of Metallo. I'm curious what that experience was like, because it was obviously a lot of prosthetics. I think you were like running around without a shirt for most of some part of it. I mean, what was the process like being on that show?
Well, first, that was such a great opportunity for me, just because having been familiar with that DC world, I knew the traditional story of Corbin turning into Metallo and whatnot, and I knew he was traditionally depicted as a Caucasian male, whether he was from the UK or the US or whatever. And so when they called me to audition for that role, of course they told me, they said, hey, look, we want to introduce a new Metallo. And I was kind of confused, because I was like, or is that in the archives, right? And I remember they auditioned, I think they hit on every ethnicity, to be honest. And so when I booked it, it was such a statement, I think, to, for the creatives to be like, hey, let's turn an Asian American character into Metallo, So in that sense, it was a huge win for me to represent that person and that character being the ethnicity and, the generation that I am. And then once I got up to Vancouver, I remember, there was a ton of prosthetics from the waist up, just because of that chest plate. And that was fun, because it was the first real, I've had a prosthetics done before, but just having a mold of half of my body and having to get in that, it took about 3 hours a day and about 2.5 hours to get out of every day. Unfortunately, we filmed it in the summer, so I'm just sitting there on set, just sweating, like brains out. But with all the electronics and the gadgets, I had guys, remotely controlling that thing, and I'm performing the whole deal. It was definitely like, it took a team to do that, and it was just really, really cool experience, to obviously be around Supergirl and to fight Superman, and to have that big fight scene in the park, and it was cool, because actually the initial episode which usually these episodes are only like 2 weeks of filming. This one, I mean, I was filming for over 4 weeks for this one episodic, and that episode, it was supposed to end with me getting my kryptonite heart pulled out after Superman defeats me in the park. And I remember we finished that, and I wrapped. I flew back to LA, and they called me the next week, and they said, "Hey, we need you back." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because we don't want to kill you off. We need you to wake up." And I was like, "Dope," So I went back, and we reset up a scene in which all they needed me to keep the storyline open, for hopefully more episodes or whatnot, was for me to kind of like wake up and kind of give like an exhale, like I'm still here, and that shot gets thrown in so that episode is really strung out to a lengthy shoot. I haven't got the call to go back, and I don't think they've had Metallo back since then. So, but the cool thing is that these are what these shows do. They always leave kind of like a door open, so we can visit that storyline. So, but overall, just the fact that I was a part of the whole DC world, and it's weird because I was telling my wife this, afterwards. I was just like, man, like, as an actor, I train myself to do an episode and to leave it. It's just kind of, the mental health aspect of what we do. That's the healthiest way to do it. And you're right. It's one episode, but the following for the DC Comics is huge, especially with Supergirl, Superman, and whatnot. And man, I've been recognized like across the globe. Like I'll go into a restaurant. I went into a restaurant in Cape Town, South Africa. Okay, while we're shooting season 1 of Warrior. And this is years after I'd done this episode of Supergirl. And I remember like the entire restaurant, like of the workers, the host, the hostess. It was an open kitchen, so some of the chefs, were there. I could see through. The waiters, the busboys, everybody just was staring at me the whole night. And I was just like, I didn't think much of it. And at the end, when I paid the bill, service was excellent. And they all were like, "Can we get a photo with you?" And I was like, "Sure." And at this point I was like, oh, they probably know there's a new show filming, and they're like, and one of the guys was like, "Dude, we saw you walk in," and we're like, "Metallo just walked in," and this is in a random restaurant in South Africa in Cape Town. You know what I mean? And I actually was so shocked because I was like, "Oh my God, like you guys recognize me?" And they're like, "Oh my God, dude, this whole restaurant, like we're huge DC comic fans. Like we couldn't believe it, And so it's just amazing, the audience that those shows, touch to, and reach out to, I'm just really grateful that I was able to have a part in that whole universe, let's say.
Yeah, I feel bad because a lot of these shows get bad raps. Like, oh, that's the lowest common denominator, show. It's not real art. It's not Bridgerton or whatever it is. When these guys are putting their hearts out there, and it's so loved by the fans. They embrace it so hard.
No, totally. Every show, every network, every channel, every studio, they have their own genre. They have their own following. That's one thing I've come to learn. And that's a prime example. Like I've been recognized. People call me out Metallo at these conventions before they'll call me out as Bolo from Warrior, so to speak.
Right.
And it's really interesting. Because it just shows you that one episode could have so much impact on people. Where I could do a whole season of something else, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't watch that." You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that's one of the reasons why I leave my work. I leave it. And if people identify me from my past work, that's awesome. But by no means do I walk around like, "Hey, I'm Metallo." You know what I mean? Like so that was then, and fortunate to be included in that season, and we kind of move on to the next thing. So.
Yeah, and we do have another question in the chats, but before I want to ask that, I want to caveat on something you said. Because I know for a lot of veterans, things like PTSD, right? The trauma, the anxiety, depression, all these things play a role in after their service and whatnot. And I've talked to a lot of actors now, and mental health is such an important part of what you do, because whether it be from diving into characters and having to kind of pull yourself back, or even just you pour your heart and soul into something, and then let's say like the critics hate it and it bombs or whatever it is, doing something like you do as an actor, it opens you up to a lot of criticism from fans, from executives, from critics. How do you handle the weight of all that?
Everything you said is true. One thing I'd like to add to that list, which I think for me personally in my world is so, I would say, big, a big part of my life is not only just being, having the critics out there or, or like you literally just always being critiqued, but it's the time that the fans and the viewers don't see of what we do. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's a lot of downtime when we're auditioning and we're taking meetings and we're getting called back and we're doing chemistry tests and we're testing with other actors and then we don't get it, you know? I mean, I always joke if I got paid for every audition that I have done, I would be retired by now. You know what I mean? Literally, we don't get paid to audition. And so a lot of that disappointment, a lot of that letdown is what initially really I had to learn how to cope with that. People just see kind of what we do and like, oh, he's on this show, he's on that show. Wow. Right. But they don't see the downtime and that, the payoff is to work in front of a camera. Right. And in doing that, I came from such a structured foundational background, meaning, I was an academic, I was an athlete, and, what I do today is going to affect me tomorrow, literally. You know what I mean? We have a game on Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going hard. Thursday is more of a light day and Friday is a walkthrough. And then, we play on Saturday, win or lose. Then we start it again, on Monday. Same with being a student. You have midterms, you have finals, and then you graduate to the next grade or whatever that is, right? In this business, that doesn't happen as chronologically as that. There's a lot of ups and downs, highs and really low lows. And so what I've done, throughout my career is I've had to really focus on me as far as giving myself a schedule, taking that control, finding the control in the things that I can control. That may sound really simple to people, but, I hate it when I'm at the beckon of a studio and they're going to determine the next 4 years of my life, whether it's a yes or a no. If it's a yes, then okay, now we're in. Now that, I have to work on this show. Or it's a no, it's a huge loss, it's a huge defeat, it's a huge confidence downer, right? So what can I do every day that I feel productive, be in control, and that's just creating a schedule. And that's where actually I'm very fortunate to have this athletic background where I've always physically trained for something, and whether it's off season or in season, you got to get those workouts in, you got to study those tapes, you got to get better. And I've really applied my athleticism and my athletic background to my current career, meaning I get up at a certain time, I'm eating this at a certain time, I'm doing my cardio at a certain time, I'm doing my weights at a certain time, I'm then eating again at a certain time, and then I leave a certain amount of time to then, prep for an audition or a project, work with my coach, work with my team, take meetings for other stuff, doing press. It's all a schedule every day. So that if I do have a job, then it's kind of like, okay, now we got booked. So now we have to rearrange that, right. And that's the only way, because otherwise we have no schedule. Literally, we're just waiting to audition and to hopefully book. You know what I mean? And then once we book, it's like, okay, now we got to get ready. That's why, there's that, cliche saying where if you stay ready, you don't need to get ready. Right. And literally that's something that I believe in, and in doing that, it allows me mentally to know, like, today I worked out, today I ate good, I was disciplined in my diet. And 3, I just submitted 2 auditions. There is nothing more I could have done today. You know what I mean? And I try to create that 9 to 5 Monday through Friday work schedule in that capacity where weekends are off, but there's residual, rollover, and maybe I can do this Saturday. So, mental health, honestly, it's a huge part of what we do. And that's really fortunate to have the background that I have coming into this industry, because it's kind of frightening to think about what if I didn't, there's a lot of downtime, if you don't structure your life right here. And I've learned that going through this process. And so, when I get the question or the issue of mental health comes up, I really focus on physical health, because that's something that each and every one of us can do. We can do that, whether it's going for a walk or going to the gym, or just our diets, our health, supplement taking, whatever it is, you're in control of that. And I found that once I can control certain things, it allows me to calm down and allows me to be able to focus clearer.
No, that's
So
awesome.
kind of a
No,
long answer, but
no, that's great. People need to hear that. People need to hear that there are,
yeah,
especially veterans out there, we get out of the service and a loss of self and loss of service and all these things. And being active is a great way. I always
yeah,
tell people, be of service, right? Do volunteer somewhere, get out there, be
yeah.
active. It's all helpful. I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy, and I don't want to break
Cool.
your schedule. I don't want
Good.
to
All good.
knock you over. A great question came in that said, basically, we see a little bit of the DC, we see a little bit of your nerd stuff. If if you got offered, and they said, "Hey, we want you to join the Marvel universe, the big MCU, the big time," and you could pick whichever character you'd be interested in playing, who would be the first one you'd jump at?
You know what? I wanted to be Shang-Chi. You know what I mean? Um, Funny enough, though, when I actually did audition for that role, and funny enough, I just knew the character so well that I knew that it wasn't a good fit for me, to be honest. And
Mhm.
so, uh, people ask me DC or Marvel, and at the end of the day, there's no discrimination. It's truly based on the character. So now, my team and I, we discuss this a lot actually, because things come in and offers come in and, opportunities are there. And we're being really picky right now, as far as, kind of which universe we want to go into. Right. But there are some opportunities out there currently, which, that's all I can say about it. But,
Right, right.
with Shang-Chi 2, being announced, as well as some other DC stuff. Hopefully we're going to land something in one of those.
Yeah.
But it's, it's like this: if the character's right and I feel 100% comfortable with it, whether it's a villain or a hero, like I'm all in. You know what I mean? So those are two things on the bucket list. I mean, even though I've been able to play Metallo in the DC world, Marvel's always been, in the forefront,
Of
just
course.
because I love that stuff. You know what I mean? And the fan base is tremendous, and the love I've gotten for just being a small part in the DC world, I can only imagine. And to have that opportunity would be epic. So
Sure.
I can't
Now,
really put it out there exactly what character
right.
though.
No, of course. No, of course. Of course. Of course. We're rooting for you. We're rooting for you. We want to see you out there.
Yeah,
So I knew him when, uh,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
being that you've gotten to dabble into the being the hero and that you've gotten to dabble into being the villain, do you find one more creatively challenging? Do you find one more that you like to sink your teeth into more? I mean, where does the joy for you come in more than the other?
You know what? Geez, another great question. I actually, it every character I play, my goal is always to bring that realism to the camera. I never want, great act. They always say great acting is not acting, right? And so, there hasn't been one character yet where it fully represents like Rich Ting. You know what I mean? But every character, whether it's me playing a Japanese general on High Castle or Bolo in Warrior or even Metallo, there is always a sprinkle of me, of the real me, in those characters that I bring, just because I need to bring that behavior so you believe it,
Mm.
right? So whether it's a villain, I mean, or a hero, I mean, I've this is where people always bring up my background, being an athlete and going to the schools and having the educational background that I have. They always ask, like, why'd you do all that? That's a waste if you're doing. And this is where it's not, because I get to pull. There's what people see is not exactly what you get with me. And of course, everyone sees me or knows me through these characters. But at the same time, I've had the opportunity to have gone through a lot in my life. As a kid, hardships. As far as obstacles and whatnot, tragedy, you know what I mean? And all that stuff gets to come out. And when I get to play these certain parts, and so, I don't know. I can't answer that question. Like, it's not a black and white question
Sure.
is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But, Yeah, I'm able to just pull things from my past and present to, like I said, to make it real. You
No,
know what I
I
mean?
like that. I definitely like that, and I think too that when you're playing these characters, let me ask you this: do you play them like so the role of a villain, let's say like
Mhm.
Metallo, do you bring it to like where okay, he doesn't think he's the bad guy. So I'm not gonna play him like this mustache twirling
Yeah,
evildoer, right? He's just a
yeah.
guy in this situation, and I'm gonna believe that he thinks he's right. Is that what you try to bring to it?
Totally. I think the word that I always bring, creatively is loyal. You know, that's why people are like, "Oh, you're the bad guy." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm the loyal guy to that guy, and maybe that guy's a bad guy, but I'm not a bad guy." You know what I mean? And so, I just, it's that sense of belief, knowing that what you're doing is what you think is right, and you're loyal to your cause. And perfect example is like Bolo. People are like, I love it. People are like, he's not a bad guy. I'm like, no, he's not. He's really not. He just has a certain demeanor and a certain aura that maybe you would think he's up to something that's not
Mm.
good, or maybe he's such a violent person, with him carrying out his task. But I always, reword and say he's loyal to his gang. He's loyal to his tong, because he has to carry out these tasks in order to survive. So, it's like anyone else. It's like a dad protecting their kid. They're not a bad guy, but if you're doing it in with good intention, you know what I mean, to protect your kid. So I use that word, loyal. I'm always loyal.
I like that. I like that loyal. That's awesome. All right, let me ask you this last one. You know, however far, however long you do this for, when
Mhm.
when you hang up the boots, so to speak, what do you want your legacy to be in the entertainment industry?
Oh, that's easy. I think 100%. The first Asian American leading man, whether that's in the DC world, that's in the Marvel world. I think I don't really touch on my race or my ethnicity too much, but because I'm just, I'm an American. That's how I identify myself, and that's how it's always been. But once you get in this industry, people look at you and they go, "Oh, you're Asian. Do you speak Chinese? Do you speak Japanese?" And I've actually had to learn a lot of these languages because of this image that Hollywood traditionally has for, Asian Americans. And so growing up, I never saw that guy. I never had an Asian American hero or Asian American actor that I looked up to, especially as a kid, that I was like, I want to, that's cool. That's the guy, whether it's good or bad character. Right. And so for me, it's always been to leave this industry being one of the pioneers of the game, being because just also time wise, like there aren't a lot of fourth generation, third generation Asian American actors that are doing work right now. A lot of this is, I know this because that's who I am, right? But a lot of my fellow actors, they may be from other countries. Just because they speak English doesn't mean they're Asian American. You know what I
Right.
mean? There's a lot of there's a lot of transplants, people from Asia, people from Europe, people from Australia that are Asian, people from Canada even,
Sure.
that are second generation, but they're not Asian American. You see what I'm saying? So, and in our world, as Asian American actors in Hollywood, there's a few of us, you know, and my goal is to represent an Asian American leading man on all platforms, on all areas of this spectrum. And so far, I've played villain, I've played hero, I've played a gay character, I've played a detective, I've played a lawyer, and all these things. And that's kind of what I want to continue to do, where whether you're a kid watching this show and you're like, oh my God, that's Metallo. Like, he's like me, like I'm Asian American. Like I could be Metallo, or you're watching another show like Warrior and you're like, oh my God, like I totally identify with this character as a strong character. Or you're just, I could be dad. You know what I mean? Just I'm a dad. And some other kids like, oh yeah, like there is an Asian American dad. Because all of these guys that I've been able to play already in my young career is what I like to say in Hollywood, I never saw. So to me, I'm living that dream already, and I just want to continue the momentum. I want to continue the representation, and I just want to continue being positive, for anyone, kids to adults, US, outside the country, foreign, whatever, you know what I mean? So,
It's awesome.
I mean, hopefully that happens, you know what I'm saying? I think I'm on the right path. So I just got to keep the momentum going.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where you go. So, with that in mind, do you have anything coming up that you want people to check you out? Do you want to shout out to anything that's out there, or just let people know where they can find you?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm available on all social media platforms at Rich Ting World. And as far as upcoming project, just because of the whole COVID thing, a lot of things got delayed. A lot of things got rushed. But currently, a lot of things came out just because of the whole, like I said, the whole pandemic situation, right? So currently, right now on Tubi, I have a horror film called Unborn, where I play one of the lead characters as a detective. Magnum PI on CBS, we just finished season 4. I was able to do a recurring arc as one of the Yakuza characters on that thing, which was fun. I did a spaghetti Western over the pandemic called No Name and Dynamite, which is now available on Amazon Prime, iTunes, and is on, I think, demand. And that was very interesting because we kept the genre of a true spaghetti Western. And we shot it actually pre-pandemic and during the pandemic in the LA area, outside of LA. But, the way we shot it, it looks like it's from the 60s. You know what I mean? Except you have an Asian American cowboy, which no one's really ever seen before. So that was definitely one that's out now. And then coming up, like you teased in the beginning, we just finished season 1 of Netflix's Partner Track, which is a legal drama, which is going to be on the Netflix platform hopefully this fall. And this summer, we have Hulu's The Old Man, starring Jeff Bridges, which actually should have came out a year ago. And they had to delay it just due to COVID and some other reasons, but we're finally going to get that going. And yeah, man, just really excited, with these recurrings to hopefully come back for these new seasons. And again, for us, it's only March. It's almost April, so it's still early in the year for us. So looking forward to just, hopefully getting into some more DC stuff, some Marvel stuff, and coming back on this thing and talking to you about that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're a friend of the show forever now. Anytime you want to come back, you got our contact, man. Anytime you want to come on, we can talk some geek stuff and some nerd stuff, and just dive into the pool of acting and talk about that. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I'll give you the last 5 seconds to say goodbye to the audience. They've really enjoyed it. They've been chatting away in the chat, so they've really enjoyed everything you said, and we'll toss it to a break.
Okay, I appreciate you guys having me. To all the men and women in our U.S. Armed Services and all branches, I just want to say thank you. I've always appreciated what you guys and gals have done for us, and much respect and love.
Awesome, guys. This has been Rich Ting. Check him out everywhere. We'll post his social medias on there, and we'll be back right after this.
Share
You're listening to the sounds of WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Let's see if I can get my amazing co-host to appear. Mr. Radar, you with us, buddy?
Yes. I'm here. I'm
He's
back.
here. He's back. He's back. He's back. There he is. Slid right in. I don't know. It always
Do
takes
that.
a second.
Slide right in.
What is it? What is the? It's so weird that the bubble takes a second to fill in. Hang on a second.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't know. That's weird. Hang on. But I mean, you're here. I don't know if they can
I
hear
am.
you or not, but
I hope they can hear me because I have important things to say.
yeah, we can hear
Perfect.
you. Excuse me. I don't know why.
Maybe you need a drinky drink or something.
There he goes. All right. Sorry, that was weird. Sorry about that. That
Yo,
was strange. So that was Rich Ting. How awesome of a dude
that was fantastic.
is he?
That was great. Considering like a couple hours ago, we weren't sure if he was going to be here.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. I'm so glad he showed up. That was worth it.
That was very worth it. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think he's excuse me, I got like a frog in my throat. I think he's an incredibly talented dude. I've seen quite a number. I won't say I've seen everything he's done, but
No.
I've seen a large portion of it. Man in the High Castle, Supergirl, and a couple of his other things. And I think he's such a talented dude, and you can see he takes his craft very seriously.
Yes.
The dedication he puts into his body, his mind, his craft, it's impressive. It's impressive. And I have a feeling we'll be hearing some big things down the line.
Yep. Absolutely.
I have
Either
a
that or
feeling.
he's going to figure out a way to monetize all those auditions he goes to. and get fired. One of the two. I don't.
Yeah. You figure that one out. Yeah, and I was so appreciative. The break went long in the front half because we were having some technical difficulties, and he was so committed to making it work. Like I was ready to be like, dude, I'm sorry. We gotta pull it. We gotta call it. We were having some mic issues and some different things, and he was so committed to coming on to talk to us, to talk to you, the audience. Knowing that it was a live audience, knowing that these people are sitting here waiting, he really literally pulled out every time. We reset like 3 times. He changed headphones. He did the whole thing. Like, what an awesome dude. Anybody else would have been like,
Professional.
yeah. Anybody else would have been like, you know what, this ain't worth it. I got shit to do. But yeah, that was great. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, that was good. I'm trying to think. Did we leave off any? Because I know we kind of cut quick to it. Actually, one thing
Yes.
I do want to touch on is they released the new Top Gun Maverick trailer, and if
Yes.
it's okay with you, I'd love for us to all watch it together. How does that sound, Radar?
I would love that. And actually, that's one of the things I watched while I was gone. I went. Well, I had to go do some. Okay, so people don't understand. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm not taking a break because I monitor the chats, hang out for a little bit and stuff. But for me, that's my dinner time. So if I'm not here doing whatever, Radar's getting some chow because Radar gets home from work, hops right on here, hangs out with CQ for a minute, then we start the show.
That's
So
right.
Radar got him some chicken noodle soup, talked to his wife for a minute. But while I was on there, actually another buddy of mine sent me the trailer for Top Gun. He's like, dude, you got to watch this. It's awesome. So I was like, all right, tell you.
All right. Well,
So I've
now
never seen it.
now that Radar cheated and went ahead and saw it ahead of us, let's all watch the trailer for Top
Let's
Gun
do it together.
Maverick. All right. Woo! Anybody else got half a chub going?
Maybe a little bit, but
What'd you think?
here's what I'm going to say on this one.
Okay.
I'm excited for it. I've been excited for it since they first announced it. It better not fucking suck.
Just don't suck.
Just don't suck, man. They've been dragging this motherfucker out since before coronavirus hit.
Yeah. Yep.
It's been like 2 years since the first trailers came out for it.
So, funny enough,
it's
you should
just-
mention that. Funny enough, you should mention that. The history, okay, so just to bear with us, Top Gun Maverick originally was scheduled to release July of 2019.
Yes.
It's almost 3 years ago. Not
Yeah.
that it started 3 years ago. It was supposed to be in theaters 3 years ago, which means it was shot 4 years ago
Or better.
or more, you know? So it was supposed to be released July of 2019. The year before, August 2018, they said, hey, we're going to delay it a full year to June of 2020 because, you know, of the complex flight sequences that we're trying to work out. Okay, it gets pushed back a year. Then in March of 2020, just a few short months before that, they're like, haha, yeah, you know that whole pandemic thing happening? We're gonna move it. We're gonna move it again. And then on April of 2020, it's like, you know what, screw it. We're moving it to December. Well, then in July, they're like, yeah, that doesn't really work for us. So
But they kept doing that. They weren't alone in that. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. They were not alone in that.
They weren't the only one.
Widow, they basically everything that was supposed to come out. They're like, nah, I can't. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. So they're not the only ones. Yeah. They're not the only ones. But they set the bar. They were doing delays before pandemic was even a thing.
Yep.
They were the cool guys.
But I mean, but I'm glad they did that. Part of me, I'm glad they did that because it would really suck if they were to release it. If they released it 2019 and it would have sucked because they hadn't got the CGI down, they hadn't got the other things down. It would have been kind of a disappointment, I think, to a lot of people because they did put a lot of money and a lot of time, and this has been a long time coming. Top Gun was one, you know, since they came out, people wanted sequels to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a well-received movie. It's not, you know, people our ages, we grew up watching Top Gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people our generation and our parents have really wanted to see an addition to this movie. And so I think it's going to be really, really, really well received as long as it doesn't suck.
Sorry about it.
Sorry about it. Don't make it not suck, Tom Cruise. Sorry about it.
I mean, yeah, and this is something that, for those that don't know, like they've been working hand in hand with the Navy to make this as authentic as possible. Cruise himself was like, "Give me an F-16. I'm gonna fly it myself and film the stuff." F-18, whatever.
There's a big difference. F-18s have two motors. F-16s have one.
Whatever. So, tomato. Chinooks and whatever the other one was. What was the other one? Anyway, my point is that they wouldn't let him obviously take these military aircraft.
Probably just could have bought one. You guys went to like McDonald's. I was like, hey, hook it up with a Hornet.
Yeah, I'm gonna lease it. I'm gonna borrow it for a minute.
Yeah.
Enterprise probably have F-18s, right? It's like the high.
Yeah, they'll pick you up.
They'll pick you up. So the fact that it's been in development hell, or not even development, but just release hell, we're finally here. We're finally here. Yep. May 27.
They're flying combat air patrols over Ukraine. The film.
I mean,
we had to get Putin on board to invade Ukraine so we could have a realistic
awkward.
Film. I don't know. I made that part up. I don't know. They're probably fighting the Russians. I don't know.
But yeah, so you know, we're obviously all here very excited for it. The Navy working hand in hand with them. You know, who knows, maybe some opportunities. I don't know, things that might happen if we're lucky, and you know,
it'd be cool.
We don't talk about things that we don't know is going to happen yet. So
we don't talk about radar in a flight suit. We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about that. We're not putting shows together on the decks of, you know, big aircraft carriers. But whatever. So Mr. Radar, I do believe we've gotten to that point in the night where
like he's just said, we get a release date, May 27th.
Yeah,
right? Is the release date? Yeah,
that is the release date. Yeah. May
We
27th.
were like hyping it. We're hyping like just said like yeah, it's the 27th. I believe is the day.
Currently, the release date is
They might
May
push it.
27th. I mean, they pushed back. What was it Mission Impossible 7 or whatever it is? They pushed back that movie. They pushed back a couple. So, Mr. Radar,
Yes.
would
that's
you
me.
tell the fine folks at home what they can look forward to here in a week of WTF Nation Radio?
Typically, well, right now they've been listening to CQ and Radar on Pop Culture Warrior. That's him, CQ, me, Radar. Tomorrow night's a Don's Day. Day of no scheduled activities. We have Wednesdays off. We'll be hanging out with our families and friends, and you guys do the same. Now, Thursdays, big one. Swords time. Ice, Spanky, Sergeants. They're going to be talking about sergeant things, army things, doing some leg tucks or some shit. I don't fucking know what they're talking about. It's going to be exciting. Yeah, I'll be there. Now, Friday Night Freedom, Kaz and Pookie. Last week, they had a surprise guest. They had Ice on. Good times. They're amazing show. It's a good time. Be there Friday nights. Now, Saturdays and Sundays, weekends. Be there like with your family, drink some beers, hang out, whatever. Hopefully you're lucky enough to have some like nice weather and stuff. We're not here. It's supposed to be a blizzard again and shit, but whatever. Fuck it. Now, Monday, the aptly named Monday edition happens on Mondays. They're good at it. Now, that's got Ice and Mom. They talk about all kinds of cool shit. Current events. Like there's a thing going on in Europe somewhere they might talk about. Maybe not. I don't know. They got all kinds of shit to talk about. But when they drop the reins on Monday nights, we swing up on Tuesdays, pick them up. Him CQ, me Radar, right here. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Amen.
Every Tuesday, Pop Culture Warrior.
I love that you know the reference.
Yeah.
So tonight we were talking with Rich Ting, incredible actor. Shout out to my voice. Shout out to those guys over at Friday Night Freedom. They're going to be having a special guest this week as well, April 1st. They got Cody Brakefield. He'll be hanging out with Kaz and Pookie on Friday to talk about his organization To the End and Back and their current project, Ride for Awareness. So definitely check out Friday's show with the special guest. And next Tuesday, I'm hyped. I'm excited. Radar knows this. I've been excited for this guest for a while. I'm going to learn to pronounce his name before he comes on. I swear to God. But we've got Cheyenne Sobyan.
Let's talk Halo next week. You know what, Scott? Let's
Yeah.
talk about it just a little bit right now.
Yeah.
I didn't. Did you watch it?
Of course I watched the premiere episode. Yes, of course.
I didn't. All I saw on there was porn stash. That's it.
Yeah, porn stash is in there. Which,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, it hasn't been scheduled. But we have one of the actors of Halo joining our show very soon.
Is it porn stash?
It's not porn stash, unfortunately. I'm working on him. But we have another
Working on the
actor.
porn stash. All right.
I'm, I'm working on the porn stash. But we have another actor from the incredible Halo series that will be joining us here in studio. Sometime over the next couple weeks. We're just working on scheduling now. But yeah, next week we will talk Halo. I promise.
Does it get the CQ seal of approval?
I have thoughts.
Would you recommend that? Okay, if Radar was not, if I was not me, if I was just on Pop Culture, and I said, you know what, I'm looking for a streaming show to watch. What do you got, Pop Culture Warrior? Would you recommend Halo?
Did you ever play Halo?
I did.
Did you enjoy the franchise?
As much as any other first-person shooter. I didn't really. Okay. Get back. Remember, I play first-person shooters to play multiplayer.
Right.
I don't really get in the campaign.
Right. So you weren't into the mythology and the storyline and the plot and all that.
No, my son was. My son, Baby Radar, Private Radar, actually Specialist Radar now.
Ooh, congratulations.
He when he was a tot, when he was a middle schooler, he could tell you hook, line, and sinker the entire methodology and mythology behind.
I'll tell you what.
that
I think because you're not dialed into the mythology of it, you might enjoy it more. The biggest complaint a lot of guys have is that, like, oh, this isn't the storyline of Halo. Like, we never see the Master Chief's face. We don't do this. We don't do that. And it's like, well, they're taking the core of what it is and making it a TV show. They're not
Yes.
turning Halo the video game, Halo 1, into a TV show. They're
Right.
taking the content, very, very much like The Walking Dead did, right?
Okay.
Like, where it's like
Yeah.
they're taking a lot of the mythology of it, the mythos, the pieces, but rearranging it to make it work for
To
TV.
make it work. Yeah. Because it's not a video game. They have to make it work for television.
Yeah. See, like Scott said it perfectly. The show's good. It's not following the lore, but it's still good. The big complaint is that it's not what we grew up on playing. But I'm giving it the. Let's see how it goes.
And what streaming service is it on?
That is on Paramount Plus. Yeah. Yes. But but obviously we're also I tell you what, Scott, I will give you Halo time. I promise you. Hold me to it. I will give you Halo time to discuss. But we're gonna be talking about Moon Knight. I'm just letting you know right now. We're gonna be talking about Moon Knight.
What if Moon Knight sucks and Halo's the
Don't you fucking dare.
Hey, I said what if?
What if season 2? That doesn't make any sense. I don't
But I'm just saying, dude, like
It
I
could.
don't know.
But they have even the worst Marvel property right now is more of like it was okay. Right? When's the last time you said this Marvel Studios property, well, that sucked? See, you're having to think.
I am thinking.
That's a good sign.
So they're due for a dud.
Oh, don't say that.
Oh,
Don't say that.
Well, okay, no, I'm just playing devil's advocate now. I'm probably gonna watch it, and I don't think
You
it'd
just
be
like
horrible.
poo-pooing on me. You like poo-pooing on me.
I don't think it'd be horrible. I just think it's going to be interesting adding a new character, completely new character.
It's a new
in
element.
Completely new way. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I just kind of wish that they'd have. I don't know.
We'll see.
And I kind of hope that they kind of do some like Jessica Jones stuff too.
We're
Maybe
T
bring them
minus
into that.
4 hours. 4 hours and some change from the release of episode 1. So,
Are you gonna stay up tonight and watch it? Or are you gonna
fuck.
watch
Dude,
it
that's like 3 a.m. my time. Hell no.
fucking no.
But I'll get up early as fuck tomorrow to watch it. I promise you that.
He says Halo blows goats for dimes.
Well, next week we're gonna set
I'll
it
watch
up.
it. What nights does that show come on? Is the new ones for Halo?
I honestly couldn't even tell you. I watched it because I knew it was out. I don't know which night it comes out. I know it's
All right.
Is it Friday, Thursday, Friday?
1883 came out on Sundays.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a Sunday.
Anyway.
you know what, I'll at least watch the first one, and we'll talk about both of them.
Thursdays.
I'll
Scott says
get
it's
it- I can-
Thursdays.
Thursdays.
There you go.
So I'll watch it probably this weekend. I'll watch the first 2 episodes of Halo, and we'll watch
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight, and we'll talk about those next week.
Yeah.
And then you had something on tap tonight.
Yeah. We were gonna.
Would we eat it?
What? Yeah. Who eats this?
Who eats
It's-
this?
Because I used to call that segment. What was it that I used to call it? Is would you eat it? And I think it gave off the wrong connotation. It's meant to be more like, who eats this shit? Is really what it is what it is. I'll give you one. Can I give you one?
Yeah, we can do one.
I do want to do one.
Absolutely.
I want to do one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you one example of one. Who eats this shit? And then we'll squeeze it in next week. But here you go. Ugh, I can't even. Do you remember when you were a kid? Do you ever get like the chocolate oranges? Right? It was a little ball and they were slices.
Yes.
And they were chocolate, but
Yeah.
they look like orange and they had maybe like a little orange taste. Okay.
Did they have orange taste? I don't remember that one.
Well, they had like a very hint. It was like a hint of orange. It wasn't like an orange flavor, but like a hint. But here's the thing. somebody like, oh man, I love that as a kid. I got an idea. Here you go. Fucking Heinz chocolate orange mayonnaise. That is a real freaking product.
It literally sent a chill down my back.
Chocolate orange fucking mayonnaise. Okay. Now, Heinz has been, I don't know what crackhead is running Heinz right now. Because they started with the mayo chup, right? Where it was the mayo and ketchup mixed in. Then there was the cranch, which was ketchup and ranch.
My kids do that. That's not weird. My kids do that.
Right.
And I thought it was weird, but they were like, no, this is good as hell. I was like, all right.
Right. Then there was the hanch, which is hot sauce and ranch. Then there was the honey racha, which is honey and sriracha. Then the wasabioli, which is wasabi and aioli. Then there was the tarchup, tartar and ketchup. Now they're just swinging for the goddamn fences with this chocolatey, orangey mayonnaise. Now, if you think you're gonna find this in the States, unfortunately, like if you saw this and you go like, well, I want to try it, like Scott says, it is not available in the States. This is only open to those in the United Kingdom. So if you really want some of this, you're gonna need to hop a flight. Yeah. So
you know what though? I kind of get that.
who eats this shit?
I don't.
Who eats
But I was
this?
just thinking, okay, as we're talking about it,
It
if it wasn't actually mayonnaise, if it was like a Nutella,
right.
skip the mayonnaise out of it. If you
Okay.
added some like orange to like Nutella, I could see that being a thing.
But it's mayonnaise.
Yeah, I know it's mayonnaise.
That's the issue. I have no problem with chocolate. I have no problem with orange. I have no problem with mayonnaise. Those are not three things that should be mixed together.
Yeah, but British people eat all kinds of weird shit. Oh, Europe is just full of weird shit.
Bangers and mash and
Yeah.
blood pudding.
Yeah.
But
Like
chocolatey.
they put blood in all kinds of blood sausage and fucking pig brains and shit. No. Doesn't make it. They probably put this fucking orange chocolate mayo on their blood sausage fucking sandwiches or some shit. Dip it in there like, yes.
And okay,
Hey.
and I would say we'll do one more just because it involves, speaking of other countries, here you go. This is a real advert from McDonald's in China.
Is it a bat?
It is a McDonald's Spam and Oreo burger. That's real. Spam and Oreo burger.
Okay. The auspice of this whole thing
Mhm.
is you ask who would eat this.
Mhm.
Remember about 2 years ago, we all got locked in our houses because people ate a fucking bat?
Well,
Whom would eat a Spam and Oreo burger? The guy who gave us coronavirus from the fucking bat. That's who would give us. But okay, stop. Full stop on this. Scott nailed it. Do they think this is what Americans eat normally or something?
so I shit you not. That is the point of this. They call it like the American or some shit like that. Like
Well, but
this is
they really do think we eat like this.
that's
now,
what
if they
they
do,
yeah.
they know we put cheese on it because Americans put
And
cheese on
bacon.
everything. Cheese and bacon.
Yeah.
But they really do. But people think we do. Okay, let's be honest. When it comes, we kind of eat like fucking garbage, people.
Ugh, I gotta wash my mouth out. Just look.
But hey, you know what? We kind of did this to ourselves. We did this to ourselves.
Ugh. Anyway,
he's not wrong. That's what I think. And they want to be like us, dude. They want to be Americans. But they think they're gonna get they're gonna get fat. Better than me. But
anyway.
yeah, see? Corporal Carter, what the fuck? That's right. So what the fuck moment?
Okay, so
Oh, God, I kind of want a spam burger.
spam and Oreo burger.
Not spam and Oreo. I want Oreos on the side, dunked in my chocolatey mayonnaise.
See, but you put them on the side, and all you're gonna think about is like, sliding it towards the burger. Anyway, so next week, yes,
And they want the freedoms and the spam and Oreo burgers because America. That's right,
because
Scott.
America. We will definitely talk Halo. We'll definitely talk Moon Knight. We'll maybe play some Who
We'll go
the
through some more
fuck
of that.
eats this? And
Maybe we should. Well, we can get because we used to do that quite often.
Mhm.
We used to have we used to talk about that stuff. It was damn near about every show.
well, it was also because nobody would come on as a guest back then.
Well, because it was coronavirus and nobody.
Sure.
That
It was-
and we were new.
It
and
was
nobody
that,
even knew
and
about
yeah,
it.
nobody. We had 3 people watching, and nobody was going to come on the show to do that.
Right. But I mean, we could go through. I mean, we don't even if we don't do a whole night of it like we used to.
Yeah.
We do a handful every night.
Yeah.
I don't hate that idea.
I got
kinda
a
like it.
couple. I got quite a few queued up. Those were just
All right.
two outstanding shining examples. But also next week we've got Cheyenne Sobihan.
Cheyenne.
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 Shit.
Pretty sure it's Cheyenne.
But is it Cheyenne? Are you sure it is?
Pretty sure about it. Pretty sure about it.
It could be Cheyenne.
Just Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
Just Cheyenne.
Just Cheyenne.
We
We're
do
we're
need
gonna
a
learn. Yeah, we're gonna learn. I'm gonna
language expert. Doesn't Ice speak like 100 languages? Maybe we should ask him.
I'm gonna get that. So, but he is best known for playing Bayrod Tarazi on DC's Legends of Tomorrow. We got another DC show coming on. We had Breck Bassinger last week. We got this guy who played Metallo, and then next week we got Bayrod Tarazi. He's also an accomplished singer and musician. He plays a variety of instruments, including guitar, bass, piano, the dulcimer, and the shruti box. I want to say those last 2 are made up, but we're gonna find out.
I've heard maybe I've heard of a dulcimer. Oh, it's my wife. She's good at
Yeah.
music.
So anyway, that'll be next week. Very excited. And also, last week might be the big send-off episode for the current home of Pop Culture Warrior, right? This might very well could be the last episode next week, where you see this, not this, but all that back there. Because yeah, we're gonna be moving to the new home of Pop Culture Warrior, the new CQ Studios, broadcasting live from the basement of my house in my new studio.
The basement of my house, not far from the Pentagon.
Yeah, not that far from the beginning. All right, guys, this has been real. It's like your favorite team changing stadiums.
Yeah, but it's always an upgrade.
Yeah,
Right?
right. Don't think of it as changing stadiums.
Unless you're the
more of
Broncos.
upgrading.
Did you see that shit?
What?
The Broncos stadium was like on fire. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, it
Stuff
was
like that
fun.
happens all the time.
I mean, they're fucking crackheads everywhere down there.
Yeah.
I've been in Denver.
It's
but-
not like a team changing cities. It's more like they're building a new stadium next door, and it's a better stadium. That would be like, I think of like my Giants when they
Okay.
shut down MetLife, or not MetLife. They shut down MetLife, and then they built the Meadowlands, or shut down the Meadowlands and built MetLife. That's what I mean. Anyway, all right, guys, been a lot of fun. You guys are awesome as always. Thank you for hanging out with us, chatting with us. You guys have been awesome in the chats. I truly appreciate every one of you guys asking questions and participating, hanging out. Every one of you that come out every week, it means the world to us. Keep staying tuned, because like I said, for the 100th episode, which is right around the corner, we're doing something epic. I don't know what it is yet, but we're gonna brainstorm some things, and I'm gonna give away some things, and it's gonna be a raucous time. So
it's going to be so fun. I'm really excited for it.
100 episodes, dude.
Yeah.
100 episodes that we've done. I mean, you've done like 90 of them, but
Oh yeah, 85 probably. It's whatever.
but you've been there for
Well,
most of them. Most of
I've
them.
been there for the
The
majority. of
large
them.
majority. The
Yeah.
large majority. It's very few that you've missed out on. And then the ones that I've missed out on, we don't have a show. So so
Yeah.
it doesn't count.
You haven't
Um,
missed out on any of them.
I've
You've been
been
here for every show.
I've been here for every show. And so is Heath, apparently, if he's still
Yes.
out there.
Good job, Heath.
All right. I got nothing left. Radar, you got anything?
I'm done, buddy.
You're done?
Throw a towel in.
God bless you guys, man. We appreciate you coming out. Say goodnight, Radar.
Good night, Radar.
We'll see you guys next week. Shots.
I see you.